Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Are Finally Podcast Episode 7. I'm Rosin,
I'm Zach.
and things have happened since we've been gone.
A few.
A little bit, just not much happened, actually.
Not like E3 or anything.
No, no, not like the biggest gaming event that's like a thing that exists.
That we're mostly not going to talk about.
That we're actually, yeah, we didn't even think about talking about that before we did this. Nope.
It just came up naturally, and we're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, fuck Dad of War. Who gives a
Yeah.
shit? Yeah. But, yeah, how was your week?
Pretty alright.
It's been good. It's been good. I, recently played Mirror's Edge Catalyst. That's a thing that I thought I'd shoehorn into the start of this podcast because I have feelings about.
What are your feelings on Mirror's Edge Catalyst?
So, have you actually played Mirror's Edge, like the first one?
Yes, I have. A few times, actually. Never to completion. I've always started it and got, like, halfway.
Oh. I played that game and I'm like, okay, it was a really weird experience for me because for most of it, I'm like, I feel like I like this slightly less than the first Mirror's Edge. But then, like, the more that you play that game, the more apparent the problems become. So for those of you that don't know, Mirror's Edge is kind of like a parkour platformer thing where the first game was very linear. It's just like, I think it's like 9 levels back to back with very light story in between, and to just go from point A to point B and do the thing. Catalyst, they went for more of an open world thing, and I feel like if that game, it's really weird because I almost want to argue that that game's open world feels more like a hub, and like the side missions are like tiny little miniature levels, but at the same time, like the line nowadays between hub world and like shitty sandbox is very hard to describe, I guess. That game would be a lot better if it was just not a sandbox game. And I feel bad saying that because there are a lot of times when I was playing Catalyst where just moving around in that game is fun just because of how well the parkour is integrated. So like there's about an hour or so probably of total game time where I was just going from different places and seeing if I could do things and running around and seeing if I could make some jumps and stuff like that. And that was really fun, and I don't regret that time. But then when it's like, okay, you need to go here, I'm gonna mark this waypoint on your map, and you just have to run like halfway across the city, and you're just like, fuck, this wasn't worth it. Also too, like, I feel kind of bad because the first game didn't review super well. And I think part of that is because, well, the game was short, and even though I love Mirror's Edge 1, I will say if I had bought that game for probably $60, it probably came out for, I probably would have been kind of disappointed with the value, even though the game itself is really good. Catalyst is weird because I feel like they partially tried to, like, it's like only 15 hours long, but I feel like they filled it with a bunch of fluff that they didn't need, partially in response to those criticisms. And it also didn't review very well either, and I feel kind of bad because a large part of it is people talking like, oh, well, this story was bad, and like I feel like it's a case where, I don't know, just because the first one's story was also pretty bad, but like, mostly it's ignorable, like you can skip most of the cutscenes. Even then, the ending is so terrible and probably one of the worst endings I've seen of any video game ever that I think that was the final push I needed to say, yeah, this game is worse than the first one, and that really depresses me. But I'd say it's okay. I feel like it's a thing where if this game had come out maybe 2 years ago, it would have been pretty good for the time, but just open world games in particular have advanced so much that it's not impressive anymore.
There's
Like,
also a billion of them.
yeah, and it doesn't do anything other than, hey, the movement in this one's really good. That really makes it stand out, and that's really depressing. Like they should have probably just remained with like a linear level structure. There's like an upgrade system too, which partially also seems to be them kind of addressing criticisms of the first game where like people just had a hard time getting to play that game at like any advanced level because there's a lot of moves that you have that aren't explained very well, and like even there's some stuff in that game that like I never really knew you could do until like a year after. Like when you're jumping from a high height, you can kind of do like this quick turn and then just for style points kind of like flip the bird, and like that doesn't add anything to the game, but it's the thing you do that is just kind of a tiny little part of your moveset that I never even knew existed. And just stuff like that I feel like they tried to address, but also too, then you have some really weird stuff where it's like unlock the ability to roll after you land. And it's like, oh,
Oh,
that's oh, okay.
wasn't that right away in the first game?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I kind of get it because they start the courses they start you out on, unless you go out of your way to do some side stuff. Like I can kind of see where they're trying to just get you used to the movement and jumping and not worrying about safe jumps and stuff like that yet, and then they add that in later. But also too, and I've seen this complaint addressed elsewhere too with people where it feels like the levels and like the missions themselves were not made with the upgrade path in mind, because there's some stuff that like it feels like you can't do it yet, and it's really weird that they even have like so close to kind of the starting area of the game some missions that like you end like they're basically like time trial stuff, and it's like, oh, I'm ending with like 1 or 2 seconds every time, and then later on after you get all your moves it's like, oh, this is actually a lot easier to do now that I have everything. Why did they put it that early on then? And it's just kind of weird, but I think it's good, and I think if you're a fan of the first game it's definitely something worth picking up for like, I'd say like $25, but like, yeah, I was kind of disappointed. It's
I have a
unfortunate.
question about it.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of online?
Oh, I'm so happy. I almost forgot.
Oh,
There is. So actually, that's one thing. They delayed the game 2 weeks because like there's like some social media connectivity things that like they apparently they wanted to make sure like there's no bugs or anything. Which like, okay, sure, whatever. But like, it's so bad. So they do this thing where there are different billboards and like, like advertisements and stuff like Blade Runner style across like the skyscrapers, and it's like, oh, you can hack the little screen, and then your character profile emblem will show up in your friend's game, man.
oh,
And like it's like a way of marking your territory, and that completely shattered apart for me because like I have, I think, one other friend that like I went to high school with that has the game. I saw it, picked it up, and like, me and him tagged like the billboard or whatever a few times. Oh, fireworks are going off! Happy 4th of July, everyone. Um, but yeah, it was this thing where like, yeah, we had our like little emblem show up in each other's games a few times. Haha, that's cute or whatever. And then I noticed like, man, we both just have had the default one this entire time. So like near the end of the game, I'm like, I'm gonna actually customize my profile. You can't even do that in game. You have to log on to mirrorsedge.com, whatever the fuck, and
oh
and
my
edit your
god.
profile. It's ridiculous how shoehorned in it is. Uh, Also, there's some stuff too where like you can, and I never really messed with it, but it's like, oh, you can create your own little time trial thing within the open world and then put down a marker. You ever play Infamous 2, actually?
No.
Okay.
I
Uh,
skipped that one. I played Infamous 1 and Infamous the one
Second
on the
Son.
PS4. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a thing in that game where you could create, it reminded me a lot of that actually, where you can create levels, like Little Big Planet style, kinda, or like little missions, and then in the pause menu, there's an option that's like, do you want like player created levels to show up as waypoints randomly? And then you can click yes or whatever, and then you can just kind of go to this little red mission marker, and it's like, oh, Sephiroth Lord 16's time trial. Do you want to play it? And it's like, yes, no. And like it's kind of out of the way and inoffensive. And to be honest, I just kind of turned it off because I didn't care anymore. And like I think I played like two of them, and like they weren't very good, so I just kind of didn't. There's like a built-in leaderboard function thing for the missions where it's after you beat a mission, they'll show you like the top 10 players or so in the world, which is
Yeah.
like, oh, that's neat for the people that speedrun and stuff like that. But no, the online is very limited.
So, yeah, okay. So the reason why I asked about the online is how you mentioned the game kind of feels like it maybe would have been better 2 years ago.
Yeah,
You know how kind of like the more recent thing that's kind of, I feel like it's almost on the verge of replacing open worlds is like MMO influenced, perpetually playable online games like Destiny and The Division, things like that.
yeah,
I kind of feel with Mirror's Edge setup of like this network of runners and this underground network of people, that kind of almost would have benefited more from that than just being a standard sandbox game.
It's really weird too because I agree with you, but also, and this is partially like in one, but also actually, okay, so here's one thing. If I had just played one, I'd disagree with you because part of one's aesthetic is like this huge sterile city, and like there's literally you and just a few other people, and then the rest of them are just cops trying to, go after you. And then in Catalyst, they kind of ruin it by like the city is sterile and lifeless, and that works in one because it's linear. So it's like, oh man, this like utopia is kind of a dystopia. Hashtag edgelord youth adult novel. Um, but like in Catalyst, they did this thing where it's like, okay, we need to make the city sterile, but also an open world. And most of the time for open world games, you want those to be like living and breathing and stuff, so like they feel real.
Yeah.
So that just completely clashes, and then you get shit where it's just like this giant sterile open city, and then randomly there's just this lady on top of a rooftop that's like, "Hey, can you deliver this thing for me?" And it feels super weird.
Oh, that sounds really. I didn't even think about that, but man, the design of the Mirror's Edge city sounds awful for an open world game.
It is because
Because there's like everything looks bland by default.
yeah, and that totally works for a linear game. When you're trying to make an
Yeah.
open world that's interesting, it's just kind of boring. And I will say they do it better than I thought they would at the start, because at the start it's literally just Mirror's Edge one city where it's like, okay, this is bland. But then you get to like the second area, I guess, after some story progression happens, and that one is like less like the white pristine buildings, and like most of those buildings are just pure glass. And that's kind of like a cool thing. Like the change actually is a lot more dramatic than you'd think. And then the third area is kind of more like the upper level like rich area, and is a bit more colorful, and like there's more stuff going on, but like you don't spend much time there at the end of the day either, so whatever. So like that's kind of neat, but at the same time, yeah, it's like I feel like for the first game, I would have disagreed because it's like I feel like the loneliness kind of adds a bit to the experience. But then with Catalyst, it feels like the loneliness wasn't really thought about, or that sterile feeling. But yeah, they may as well have gone all out and just had other players around, because it just feels half lifeless, and then just like random people are just hanging out on the rooftops for no reason.
Yeah, I mean even they wouldn't necessarily have to like have an MMO hub as the main city, or just like I don't know, I just feel like maybe if they were gonna go open world, because personally I would prefer linear anyway, kind of at where I'm at right now. But I feel like I would have more interest in a game of like, oh, you get to create your own underground runner and do all these smuggling things against your rivals, which are the other players, as opposed to just another like it's Mirror's Edge one, but with a big hub world.
Yeah. I also think too, to some extent, like I don't know, it feels really weird too because they have all these like safe houses and stuff, and as you get closer to those, it's like, oh yeah, all like the punk like runner kids are hanging out outside, and it's like, man, if the cops wanted to like find our secret hideout, they won't have to look too hard. Like this guy's just kind of like parkouring up this wall, like right near the front door, like, and like I'm not even making that up. That's like a thing, and it's like, wow, this is kind of shit at this, guys. Um, yeah, I feel like something like that would work a lot better. I guess my advice, if you do get the game, for whoever's listening, don't even bother with the side stuff. Just play it like you would the first Mirror's Edge, and just treat the city as like little nice intermissions where you just get to run around a bit before you go on to the next thing. I honestly don't think you should do any of the side stuff. Maybe like one or two if you're really curious, but then they're so repetitive and they get so boring after a point. And I honestly wish because I feel like if you just actually took out all the side stuff and you just played the main missions, I'd say it's probably roughly equal to the first game. There's a few design decisions that I don't really like. The first game has a few instances where it's very obvious they intended for you to fight your way out of a situation. And if you're a speedrunner, you can just kind of skip those. But like, there's two or three parts where it's like, okay, you need to fight your way out. They kind of do a similar thing in Catalyst, where they kind of fixed the combat system so that if you're in pursuit or like you need to get someone out of the way but keep up your momentum, that works really well. The problem is that when they put you in rooms with like 2 to 3 guys, and it just becomes a point of me running from wall to wall so I can jump off the wall and then do like a jump kick because that's the fastest way I found to deal with rooms of enemies. And it's really weird because they kind of constrict you, and like I don't understand why they did that. And also too, this is kind of a minor gripe, and I think it works at the end of the day, but it's also kind of weird. Um, this is more a problem with the side missions actually. There are points where they're like, okay, you need to escape the cops, like Grand Theft Auto style, like get out of like their field of vision or whatever, and then just like lay low, and then eventually they'll stop chasing you, and then the mission ends. In a lot of those cases, if you run away from where the like enemies spawn from, you just end up getting cornered, and then you have to like run back the way you were running from. So how you actually do most of those missions, I found, is you run towards them and then past them. Which once you're doing it is actually really fun because there's some close calls, and like you have to use those combat skills and actually build momentum by like pushing people together or jumping off their heads, and that's really fun. But it goes completely against what you're told, which is just avoid them completely. And it's really weird how that's laid out.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a video game, all right. I don't think it's bad. I'd say it's a solid okay.
Yeah, I look forward to picking it up when it's $20.
Yep. Which honestly, just what you should do. Like there's even someone I knew who was like a pretty big fan of the series. Like maybe not as big as I was. Like I like Mirror's Edge 1 a lot. And they're like, "Should I get it for 60?" I'm like, "Play Mirror's Edge 1 again." And like I feel bad saying that, but like you'll probably have more fun. I wouldn't recommend. See, because like also though too, like I do hope that we get a second one. And actually, okay, I'm just gonna spoil it because who gives a shit. Catalyst ends on the worst cliffhanger I've ever seen in any video game. It's
Oh yeah.
terrible. It's literally the two worst possible endings combined in one. And I guess I won't spoil it altogether, but it's giant cliffhanger for part two, and also I thought this was the end, but it was just the beginning, like Matrix style. And those are back to back and then credits. It's the worst. I can't believe I was so pissed off. Like it's just the worst ending I've ever seen. It's so bad.
Oh man.
But yeah. Like I know I've just completely shit on the game. There is some good stuff in there. Like a lot of the movement stuff is better. Like they've made some general improvements. Like you have more customization over the runner vision from the first game where you could only turn it on or off completely. They have this really neat thing that I really enjoy. Where in the first game, some people when the first time they played it, the first couple times rather, uh, there's this problem where sometimes you just don't know what to do or where to go, and there's a button that will just center your camera onto where you should be generally going. But the problem is when you're running like full speed ahead in a hallway, and then you click that, and then it just rushes you into a wall because the camera forces you to look away and your momentum carries in that direction. It just feels really weird, and like you can only really use it if you're completely stopped. Um so what they did instead is they just have like if you click in the right analog stick, this little fog trail will just trace a path that you can follow towards where you need to go. And it doesn't like shift around the camera or anything. The only problem with that I found is like if you're running completely the wrong direction, you won't see it. But then that's your cue. Oh, I should be completely turning myself around, and then you can probably catch it from there. And then that'll disappear after a couple seconds, and then you can just click R3 again if you need it again. And it's a pretty smart way of solving the problem of where should I be headed without completely taking over control, which is nice. But yeah,
Yeah, I played a few games that had that kind of trail feature, and it's fine.
yep, it's it's good. Just wish the rest of the game was up to that standard. I
Maybe next time.
I feel like if they made a third one, and even if they did make it open world, which I don't know if they announced a third one, they're like, yeah, it's open world again. I'm gonna be like, eh. But I think they could learn from their combined mistakes between one and two, and if they're given a third chance to just make it, I think they could do it. But I don't think we know how Catalyst did. To be honest, that game had a lot less marketing than I thought it would. Because part of my hype for Catalyst after I played the beta was holy shit, they gave Mirror's Edge a budget. And that game like it's really weird because a lot of people are like, "Oh, the game doesn't look very good," and like to some extent I agree. But like when you're in motion, and also like the skylines and a lot of the levels, like some parts of that game just look beautiful. But like it's really weird. So I kind of feel like they kind of gave it a lot of money, but then also they're like, "Oh, but we're not going to market you," which is just really weird. But oh well, we'll see. Hopefully, there's a third one. But yeah.
Hmm.
Other than that, I watched Gundam Thunderbolt. That was good. Um, except for the part where they're like, "Oh yeah, the full armor Gundam," and then they abbreviate that to yeah, it's
Oh no!
yeah, it's like ooh,
Oh no!
yeah, yeah, but yeah, that was
I'm
the
glad that's the first thing I've learned about Gundam Thunderbolt because I
on
didn't know anything else before that.
no, other than that, it's really, really good. It's
Oh
just
no,
that
man!
that's a very unfortunate language barrier problem that took me by surprise.
Okay, well I'm glad I know going in about that one now.
Yeah, it's a little like whew.
So other than that, how is Gundam Thunderbolt? Because I don't know anything about it.
Um, it's really good. I'd say it's probably one of the better side stories in Gundam, which I watched the first episode when it came out, and then I kind of started the second one, then I got sidetracked. I think I was busy at the time. It might have been around the time that like I had finals and stuff. I don't quite remember. But the first one I liked a lot, and I loved the setup. And then I just recently got around to finishing two, and then watching the third and fourth episode. It's pretty short. It's a 4 episode OVA thing, and I think they even said they're going to combine it into just one giant movie, which I think, honestly, I kind of wish they just made the movie to an extent.
Yeah, I remember looking at the running times and they're like 18 minutes each. It's like, oh, that's just a movie that they cut up.
Yeah, I think they're like anywhere from like 18 to 23. It's really weird. And I don't get why they just didn't make the movie. To be honest, they probably made more money this way, and that's probably
Yeah.
why. But I mean, they it's not like they cut off in like a weird thing. Like it's very clearly 4 separate chunks that have like a start, middle, and end. But yeah, it's like I feel like you could have just made like a 4 act movie, but whatever. But no, it's really good. So I guess the brief summary, and I'll do this for non Gundam fans that are listening, and probably about to scream. Uh,
Well, sorry, it's gonna last a little bit longer, but
yeah, I will, but so basically World War II is happening in space. There's the side called Xeon, side called the Earth Federation. This is kind of a side story where there is this ruined colony in space where these Xeon space mobile suit soldiers, giant mecha snipers, are just kind of everyone who passes through, they just get sniped out of space and just blown up. And the Earth Federation's like, okay, this is a problem. This is like a key strategic point, even though it's a ruined colony. Uh, we need to send in soldiers, and then they get this prototype Gundam, which is kind of my one complaint I have with a lot of this Gundam side stuff is that this takes place during the time of the original Gundam series, and in that show they make a very significant point out of why the Gundam is very unique and very special, and like they make a point of like it being kind of a trump card in the war. And with every side story that takes place around the same time, they always have these weird prototype Gundams that it kind of makes that original Gundam seem a lot less special.
man,
Especially,
gotta make all the toy money though.
yeah, but then when you have like the Gundam and that one, which is just like, oh yeah, it has a shield, a laser sword, and a gun, and then this one has 4 shields, can move super fast and ridiculously, and has like 2 beam sabers, and it's just like, why the fuck did they not just replace this? Like, what's the point? And I guess they do. It takes place very close to the end of the original series, to be fair. But like at the same time, it's like, what was the point?
Yeah.
Like it's really weird, and just like too the fact that we've gotten to a point in animation quality and expectations where since the original series was animated in like the 70s, all of the side stories, all of the robots are moving super fast compared to the original animation, and it's like, man, like you say these things are worse than the Gundam, but they don't move like it, and it's really weird that way. But no, basically the idea is like there's these Xeon snipers that took over this colony. Earth Federation wants them out. They send in this Gundam. Gundam guy takes out the snipers and kills a guy who's like part of the sniper squad. And this other dude in the sniper squad is like exchanges some words with them over like the radio communication system, and this rivalry kind of forms. And the rest of the series is basically these two rivals just duking it out every time they encounter each other on the battlefield, which is really neat. I like that setup a lot. They finally did a thing that I've kind of been angry about forever, where a lot of times Gundam stuff, they very clearly try to make a point of like, oh, there's no true evil side. It's just people with different philosophies or whatever. But it's always very clear that Zeon's in the wrong. Like they're the bad ones.
Well, at least the people in charge of Xeon are in the wrong.
Yeah, and they finally do a thing here where you finally get a series where there's no one on the Xeon side, and like it's just like a squad. And actually, so the thing with the squad is they're all like they all have like artificial limbs and stuff, and their name is the Living Dead Squadron, and I think that's the most anime thing. I love it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It sounds like a Metal Gear squadron.
I know, I love it, and they're all kind of like traumatized and shit. You know, it's great.
So it's a Metal Gear squadron.
Yeah, it is pretty much. And you just have this really great thing where finally, like, there's no higher ups on the Xeon side. It's just like this ragtag group of like basically these crippled soldiers that are like, no, send me back in, and they're all really likable. And I would argue, yeah, like the Xeon guy is the hero of this story, and the guy who pilots the Gundam is pretty much a piece of shit. He gets you kind of start to see why he is the way he is towards the end, but even then, like, he's very clearly the villain. It's just nice to finally have that role reversal where it's like, okay, this is kind of you're kind of finally now doing the thing that you've always set out to do in a way that I believe. And like there's a character from the Xeon side where it's like, okay, I appreciate him, and like then his boss isn't the villain. It's just straight up, no, the Earth Federation team on this one is pretty awful. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. The animation quality is really good. The rivalry thing works out great. A lot of really cool stuff in there about how far will you go to get revenge sort of stuff, which is generic, but they handle it well. A lot of really good characterization for such a short runtime. And also, too, this one thing that actually really didn't like when I first heard about it, but as it went on, I really loved is the Earth Federation guy really loves jazz. So they kind of have this thing where the Xeon sniper guy, every time he's around, like this pop music starts to play, and then the Gundam like is just kind of like this like free jazz will start to play. And they do some really cool stuff with the battle sequences where it's just alternating between like really generic jazz and pop, and it works super well. And at first I was like, oh, I don't really like this, but as it goes on, it's like, this is great. Like I would take this over most soundtracks for stuff any day. It really works with the theming and like kind of the clash between those two styles. So yeah, I recommend it fully. I think I don't know if I like it as much as 8th MS Team, but like I have a special little attachment to that one. But like I'd say it's probably maybe the most well written. There's another OVA side story called War in the Pocket, which is also pretty short. I think that one might be a little bit more well written. But that one's probably the most adult Gundam thing I've ever experienced. So, but yeah, Thunderbolt's really, really good.
Well, hey man, do you want to know what my favorite Gundam spinoff is?
What is it?
Gundam The Origin.
Oh, so you watched that recently?
Hey, so yesterday, I watched the first 3 episodes of Gundam The Origin.
And how'd that go? I've watched episode 1 and 2. Oh, really?
I love it.
Like unironically, or do you really love it?
Unironically, I love it.
Okay. I
know we're gonna have some different opinions here. You're
No.
ready for some.
Okay, but here's my thing, because we talked about this a little beforehand. I actually thought you wouldn't like it at all.
Yeah.
I have conflicting thoughts about the Origin.
Okay.
So
Well, I just wanna,
yeah,
I just wanna put up before we start.
Okay, yeah.
Well, no, you can give your things first.
I was just gonna say you should start because I just went on about Thunderbolt. Now you can go on about Origin, then I can respond.
Okay, so I've got a lot to say about Origin, but first off, there's only 3 episodes out right now. There is a 4th one planned for later this year, so it's not done yet. and then they have announced that they're actually going to continue it beyond that.
Oh, really? Good, because I wanted them to.
Yeah, they've said they're moving into because apparently the manga actually covered like everything.
Yep, and
And like,
that's part of my thing with it, so I'll
oh,
tell you more
okay.
about that later.
Okay, yeah. So they have announced that it's going to go on before further after part 4, but it's going to keep going in the like chronological order. So it's going to move on the still before main Gundam series stuff though. Um, anyway, so yeah, Gundam Origin, for those that don't know, um, tells the origin story of Char, um, which is kind of the big, kind of probably the most popular Gundam character, would you say?
Oh, easily.
Kind of the antagonist of the original series, and then like a sometimes ally, sometimes antagonist throughout the main universe stuff. Um, Starts off when he's a little kid, details some stuff you knew about from the backstory of Gundam. Um, so I just want to bring up, hey, you know those Star Wars prequels?
Yep, and that's exactly what I was gonna lead into.
All right, so Gundam The Origin is basically the Star Wars prequels, but in my
Yeah,
opinion, it does everything the Star Wars prequels did, but actually good.
I agree with you for the most part.
Um, so like when I first was like, all right, so we got Char as a kid, even down to the fact that like, hey, it's a modern day prequel to a sci-fi story from the 70s
Oh shit, you're right.
set in space, and we're gonna focus on the political stuff that set up the original
Oh
story.
no, we're talking about Star Wars prequels
We're
so
talking
much
about
more on
Star
this.
Wars prequels.
We're talking, but like when I started WAF with you, I didn't
Oh,
think we'd talk about the Star Wars prequels this much that we have. This is
hey man.
we're rolling into we made I made a jab at them last episode. We had an entire episode where we pretty much shat on them. We're rolling on like almost 2.5 episodes worth of Star Wars prequels shitting on.
Well, maybe we can add it to our repertoire of Marvel Cinematic Universe and Dark Souls.
Yeah, there we go. That's our third thing. We did it. Okay.
But yeah, so like when they introduced Char as a kid, I was like, oh damn it, you know, I really, it's gonna be this lame shit where he's just like a little kid and he's whiny.
He gets into Zaku's like, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Yeah, I was so nervous, but man, like I don't know if I want to spoil it or not. What do you think we should do with that?
I feel weird because like it's new, but also too like
It's a prequel to a story that we've known for so long.
from like 1979. So
Yeah.
I'd say remain vague, but
Okay, I'll remain vague. So they handle his character really well, and the fact that he's kind of in the background for most of it, but it still centers around his family. And man, I don't know, I just the writing was really good, and then there's kind of like this big moment at the end of the first episode where it was like, oh yeah, okay, he's gonna become Char. Like,
yeah,
he's on the path. And it's not hokey, it's not like it's not a poster of Char's little kid and then the shadow is him in his armor like fucking the Phantom Menace's poster.
yeah,
It's just like there's a moment where like yeah, this I really like. I think a prequel. What I really like is when it reaches a point where it's like, okay, this is the moment that defines the character's life going forward, and this kind of has that.
mm-hmm.
Um, really good writing. Episode 2, brings it forward a bit, and then they kind of go throughout his life. I won't go into too much details because I don't want to give a lot of it away. And I also know that you have some stuff you want to say about characterization.
Yep.
So before I flip over and before we make it like a conversation, the only other thing I want to say, and it took me kind of a little while to notice it in the first episode, but so the way this show looks is they kind of use the character designs of the original 70s show, but with modern animation.
Yep.
It looks amazing. I think it looks better than almost any other anime out there today.
It's really
It's
good.
such a unique look. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't like so much anime kind of looks the same today.
Yeah.
And this is like it's 70s character designs but with modern animation, and it looks visually like appealing and unique, and I was just so into it the whole way through.
Yeah, the only thing on animation is like sometimes the CG bothered me a bit. I think overall
yeah?
it was pretty good, but like I think in 2 more so than 1, the CG was like, man, some of this weirded me out. But no, yeah, I have some problems with Origin. And a lot of it is, well, okay, I guess because I do like Origin. It's just like I have some big gripes with it that like kind of diminish it for me a tad. Um,
I believe you told me before, but I don't really remember, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
so the first one I know for a fact I didn't really talk to you about. I think the story of the original Gundam is more interesting to me personally if the Zeon family had less interaction with Char than the Origin displays. Like, I kind of wish that. How do I put this? I kind of like the idea that, like, when Char was a little kid, the Zeon family fucked him over, and he's just spent all these years dwelling on it, and there wasn't much more beyond that. And
I
then
kind of
he.
feel like that's what they did, though, for the most part.
But like, it's weird because then in like two and then in other stuff, it's like, oh well, then they sent assassins after him and stuff like that, and like part of that, I'm like, I don't like, I get that would probably happen, but like part of it is like I like the idea of like they escape and then they're like, oh, they're just two dumb kids, and then like he just spends years and years dwelling on it and then just does what he does in the original series.
Yeah.
Um, so because like I liked one more than two. I haven't seen three yet, but I plan on it. Um, and I would I be mistaken saying that in three he does more interaction stuff with the zombie family?
Um, I mean, I don't know how much you know about the plot of three, or
Not much, but
yeah, I don't. So he interacts with one particular member of it, but I'll say, I guess it won't be too much of a spoiler to say that when he interacts with the zombie family, oh
oh
no,
no.
when he interacts with the zombie family in three, they don't know it's him.
Okay, yeah. I guess that is better. Um, yeah, it's just this thing where it's like I really like this idea of like the like I said, the zombie family fucking him over, and then like almost getting to the point where it's like they kind of just don't give a shit about him anymore. And then years later, he's like, "Hey, fuckers, remember me?" And they go, "Oh shit!" Like, and then they make it more of like an involved relationship. Which, to be fair, if you're gonna do a prequel movie, is like you might as well. Like, I think it'd be hard to do it any other way. The only other thing is that and this is kind of a thing that is very weird because this is something that I know you haven't gotten to yet, and to be fair, I haven't quite gotten to yet either. Is they kind of pull in some characterization stuff that I want to say in a way kind of leads into Char's counterattack, which is a movie
Yeah.
that has already been kind of divisive in the fandom regarding Char's characterization, and then
So
they
I have
kind
a
of
few things
lean.
to say about that when we get to, yeah,
Okay, they
because
kind of lean.
I do know details about Char's counterattack.
Yeah, and like they kind of lean more towards some of the stuff he does in that, which was already controversial. So it's like, yeah, you're playing with fire here. My thing, I guess, in general, and this is, I don't have this problem with one so much, but with episode two, I feel like they kind of cross over from okay, Char is like actually a sociopath. Like his thing is he can't empathize very well. But then in two, like there's some stuff where it's like they kind of cross over into he's just a fucking psycho territory that kind of I thought was just dumb.
I see. I disagree with you.
Okay.
The way I viewed it in two and three as well, because if you felt that way about two, hey man, there's something he does in three that's really um. So the way I've always viewed his character is like deep down he's kind of has the potential to be a good guy. Like he clearly does care about people, like particular people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like kind of the way you were talking about with Thunderbolt, his whole life has been defined by his desire for revenge. And in the original Gundam series, like it was a point that he became so obsessed with his rival, which was Amuro, that he kind of almost forgot his revenge thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like it's just a point of his character where like he spent so long angry and wanting revenge that like it's kind of his default. You know what I mean? Like his default is like I'm gonna do what it takes to get revenge, and he easily just kind of latches onto that emotion itself rather than the particular goal.
Yeah. And I guess now that you say it that way, I can see that. I guess my main thing overall is like they make him out to seem more outwardly crazy than they do in like the shows, and to some extent I get that because in this one he's a kid and like obviously kids don't control their emotions as well as adults do.
Yeah.
But like I find Char that is like slightly crazy but also like generally in control and suppresses his rage pretty well, but like you could still tell he's really fucking pissed off. More interesting than just outwardly, I'm gonna fucking kill you right now, and like has the loony eyes, Char.
Yeah,
Um,
I know there's one particular scene towards the end of two that you're probably talking about, right?
yeah, and it's like okay, that's honestly the main part where it's like that was the part where like I was fine with it kind of up until then, where it's like you just made Char like super
So
nutso.
I would kind of agree with you, but I feel like, and maybe they didn't convey this the best, but like I kind of felt like they were going for he was he had pent up emotions over his mother,
Yeah,
and what just happened before that he kind of snapped, and I feel like that's kind of a moment of like that's when he snapped, that's when he decided that he needed to move forward and go into other things, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I kind of was okay with it in that respect, where like maybe he was kind of close to going into psycho territory, but I feel like they pulled it back a little bit. And at least as far as episode 3 goes, he does some like really fucked up shit, but he's a bit closer to the more calm, manipulative Char than the fucking psycho eyes Char. So
good. Cause yeah, like I guess in general too, like I find like one of the things I really like about Char, and this is especially in like Zeta, which you haven't gotten to yet, is like I really enjoyed his like characterization as just like someone who lacks empathy, and then like I don't know, because I guess part of it too is like we have a lot of characters in media that are just like, oh, they're crazy, you know. Between that and then some other stuff, there's kind of just this, and I mean this is also like multiple writers and like teams and stuff, so that's part of it too, where it's like, oh, well, there are some people that view Char as just this like crazy guy that like fucking wants revenge and is gonna kill people, and then there's other people where it's like, no, he's more manipulative, and like you said, he just kind of fucks people over that are in his way, but
yeah,
like he's not outwardly displayed excuse me, displaying that, and I kind of like that version more.
I would definitely say. I mean, also like man, in the original Gundam, I really felt like I didn't really pick up on the whole lacked empathy thing because like one of his major plots was kind of like a how much he cared for one of the characters.
Yeah, that's more of a Zeta thing.
Okay. Well, at least in Origin, I felt it was at least consistent on track to where he would become in the original show, and then with the small details I know about Char's counterattack. I haven't really gotten into Zeta yet. Probably gonna start it real soon though. He's kind of like he seems to care for people still, like in the original Gundam, but he kind of and a lot of this really comes down to like he doesn't talk a lot. So there's no scenes, and I kind of like this. There's no scenes where he's standing around talking about how much he hates sand. There's no scenes of
Yeah,
him like I'm so pissed off at all this shit,
and like
and
angsting.
I feel it, and like I should be the guy. Like there's no that. There's just a lot of scenes of him kind of like quietly looking at someone, and you can tell he's thinking things. And then he has a couple of really I won't go into too many details. He has a couple of really like nice moments with someone that he will eventually later on in the series fuck over, and it's like does he like this? I got the impression that like he likes this person and he's kind of like not sure where he's gonna go with that, but then he does some really fucked up things to someone else where it's like okay, but he's still willing to do things, you know, to get what he wants. So I as far as I know Char, I view him as someone who kind of could be a good person, but just the circumstances of his life led him down a different path, you know?
Yeah, and Zeta definitely plays with that more. Where like I'm not gonna spoil too much, but they do a thing very actually kind of similar to the first one, where like it's very obvious that there are people he cares about, but then there's a point where he's like, oh, but I have a job to do, so yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And then like those people react pretty negatively to that. Um, and like that's kind of more where the sociopath thing comes in from, where it's like he understands other people's feelings, but like there's a point where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do my thing though, and yeah, whatever. And like to the point where it's like there are elements to him in Zeta where like you because in Zeta he's part of just like the main squad in that one. He's not just like a villain that they sometimes pop into. You see him working with people, and it's kind of this thing where the more you watch Zeta, the more you realize he kind of bullshits his way through social situations, and like Origin actually does some stuff with that a little bit too, where you kind of just see where it's like he's only going through the social stuff he needs to get from point A to point B, and he doesn't really give that much of a shit, which is it's pretty neat.
Yeah. I'm actually, man, I kind of want you to watch episode 3 soon because I'd like to talk to you about that one too.
I'll do that at some point.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious how you would respond to episode 3.
Okay. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
no, I really like Gundam Origin. If you've got an interest in Gundam, check it out, but do not let it be your first Gundam.
yeah. I
It's
don't
not
think
the
it would.
kind of prequel that you go into for your first thing.
I don't think it would make sense or have any real emotional weight.
No.
Um, no, actually, I did want to say actually. So the thing with Origin, which is actually the Star Wars Special Edition of Gundam. No, so the Origin was a manga that actually I think a lot of people just aren't very familiar with it, and a lot of people seem to think that Origin as a manga is just like the Char story. What Origin was is it was actually like a 30th anniversary thing or something like that. But it was basically like a manga version of 0079, but 0079 has some really goofy like super robot-y shit in it. And like there's some stuff that obviously it's like as it's making the transition from like oh this goofy little mecha show thing to oh we want to talk about real war. Uh the manga was kind of made with the intention to kind of make it a little bit more realistic and grounded than the original series was, to the point too where if you watch 0079 and if you actually keep track of where they're going from point A to point B on Earth, their navigational path makes no sense. And I think there's actually an episode where they're in Africa and they're like okay let's go to South America right now, and like there's just some really weird jumble movement. So like I think in the series, they're just jumping over all over the place, and it doesn't actually make much sense. And then in the manga, they're just like, okay, they land in like Alaska, and they're just gonna make their way south to South America. And I think like there's some other stuff too where like they kind of explain the Gundam as being like more advanced technology, and like the gun tank and the gun cannon are like kind of older. They took out some other stuff like the weird ball and chain thing that the Gundam had is no longer there. And some other stuff too, just to make it a little bit more in line with later Gundam stuff. Uh, and basically how that worked is it was a straight adaptation, and then 3/4 of the way through they did all the Char stuff.
Yeah, it was like an extended flashback arc.
Yeah, and then they went back and then they closed it up.
Yeah, they haven't said this. All they've announced so far is that like next year they're going to start doing so the flashback arc contended into like Char's time in the war, or Char, however you want to pronounce it, his time
Yeah,
in like the war before Gundam started, where he became like super famous. So they're gonna do that arc next with the OVAs.
that's good.
And I hope maybe it's a little far fetched, but I hope that after that they actually then just adapt the manga version of the original storyline.
I think that's far fetched, but I kind of hope they do because from what I've heard, for all intents and purposes, it's just the original but better.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that with this animation, man.
Yeah, and like from what I've heard too, they've actually they've kind of like they've just made it a bit more adult from what I've heard too. Like there's a little bit less of like the over dramatic childhood angst angle and stuff with Amuro's character, and like from what I've heard, like they've just kind of like matured it up a bit or something. So like I don't know. I'm really curious to read it. I've wanted to read it forever, but like it's a thing where it's like the only reliable way to really get that and get like a good translation is like to buy it. So, which like hey, that's what you should do anyway. Support the people who bring that stuff over. But
You
I'm
did
broke.
remind me of one of my only real complaints about Origin though.
What is it?
It is they kind of there gets to be a point where they shove a little too many. Oh hey, it's that character from the original Gundam cameo.
Yeah, like there's stuff like that like part of that's just like oh you had to do the thing.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's part 2 or 3, but there is a part where Amuro's in it, and it's like fuck off.
that's part one. I love
Oh,
that.
is it? Because there's another one later then.
I'm pretty sure it's part one. No,
Uh,
it might be part two. I don't quite remember
yeah,
anymore. I watched
where
those
like
as they came out.
yeah, they're like it's all and I don't even care about spoiling this. Oh, Char and Ambrose in the same room together. They didn't notice each other, but they were in the same room.
Yeah, and I think they're even like, oh, who's that dumb little boy with
Yeah,
his
yeah,
dumb
yeah.
toy?
Who's that dumb kid or something? Fuck off.
I think he also has the toy that, like, to be fair, it is technically the Origin is a separate continuity than UC.
Yeah.
Which is also weird too because it's like, oh, Origin's a prequel, but also like it's technically an alternate universe prequel. It's really weird.
It's a prequel to a slightly different version of the story that maybe we'll get later.
Yeah, it's so weird. Um, so, which I guess also in a weird way throws a lot of my characterization complaints out the window, but also it's weird.
I guess, but I feel like they intended it to be consistent.
Yeah,
so not really.
yeah. No, like I like them overall. It's just there's some stuff where it's like I wish they kind of toned down some stuff, and I would have liked it a lot more.
Yeah, man, I'm totally okay with the stuff that they have in there, and I feel like I've reached a point where like I kind of feel like, you know what, most people probably are gonna agree with you because I'm normally the odd one out on this sort of thing. So I'm okay. I'll go full in behind. I like Gundam The Origin better than any other spin-off so far that I've seen. Granted, I haven't been into Gundam for too long, so we'll see where that goes.
I've actually heard very divided things because I've heard the angle of, man, they made Char a lot more badass and I love him a lot more. And then I've also heard, no, they're doing the Char's counterattack thing. I don't like this. So I think it's actually pretty split. Actually, well, I would say there's a lot of people that actually really don't like the CG. I don't know. I'm always really weird with that sort of thing because I tend to react better to the CG than I think a lot of people do, to be honest, and stuff. Like, it doesn't piss me off, like, just as a concept, like it does for a lot of people, it seems. But, like, there's some stuff, and I think it was 2, that, like, I thought looked kind of wonky. But overall, I thought it actually, like, worked pretty well. But, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
That opening scene of 1 is fucking amazing.
I think all of it looks amazing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
true.
I was just sitting there like I was like, man, this show just looks great.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
no, I like how they modernize the '70s style though. It's really cool how they do
So
that.
unique, yeah.
But yeah, there's that
Yeah.
Gundam talk.
Yeah, it's over. Sorry if you're not into Gundam. That was probably pretty bad.
I'll probably have little agenda points for the people
Uh,
that want to skip the Gundam.
that makes sense. Yeah, the only other thing I really wanted to talk about for the stuff I've been doing, and this kind of dates back a little while. It's kind of an ongoing saga. I'll be pretty brief about it though.
Would you say that Gundam is more of an origin or a beginning hour?
I would say that Gundam is a real beginning hour,
Oh,
and that Resident Evil 7 beginning hour,
that's the
Is-
dumbest name.
it's so bad. But hey, guess what?
It's not even the beginning hour.
It's not! And that's the thing too. Oh, okay. Well, I'm getting excited. Let's back up a bit. So, for those that don't know, at E3, they did the thing where they were like, oh, here's this creepy PT-like trailer. What's it for? Oh, it's Resident Evil 7. Oh, that's crazy. That didn't look like Resident Evil. There's a demo out now, just like there was for PT. Okay, I'll go play it. Initial response, demo was fine. A few whatever scares, wasn't really all that scary, but atmosphere was good. Creepy house, doesn't feel anything like Resident Evil, but I'll give it a shot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing, and anyone who knows anything about this demo already knows where I'm going with this, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. There was a bunch of shit in that trailer. Let's go with that first of all. There's a bunch of shit in that trailer that was not in that demo, and they said that demo, nothing in it's going to be in the main game. So the question is, if nothing in that demo is in the game, where was all that shit from the trailer? So then there's a bunch of items in the demo that have no use. People found the dummy finger, people found an axe, no use, and then there's a bunch of weird, mysterious stuff. And the bottom line is the demo opens up with get out of the house, and you can't. People say, oh, there's like 2 or 3 endings. But
You just need to open the front door, you idiot.
Yeah. Well, you can open the back door, but you get punched. So yeah, there's a few bad endings.
Do you get punched by Chris?
No, you get punched by a like
Is the
a
plot
hobo
twist that
man.
you're the boulder?
Oh, that'd be the best. No, okay, so yeah, you get punched by a like a bearded family man that's like, "Welcome to the family, son,"
Oh,
and then he punches you, and then that's it. You've no actual way to get out of the house. So they set this up so much. Hey, have you heard this before? Weird first-person horror demo representing a new entry in a long-running horror series that has a mysterious puzzle in it that's very hard to solve. Sounds like PT, right?
a little bit.
Hey, how long did people talk about PT for? A real long
A
time,
really
right?
long time.
Hype was up. Let's do the same thing with Resident Evil 7. All right, what's the puzzle gonna be? Ah, fuck it. Just don't make one. Just put a bunch of shit in there, and they'll spend time talking about it. We don't have to actually put a puzzle in there because they're gonna know it's Resident Evil 7 from the beginning. So yeah, all this mysterious stuff leads to nothing. It has been pretty much conclusively debunked that there's anything in there. There's just a bunch of mysterious items and a bunch of mysterious things. You can't actually solve the puzzle. I personally spent about a week on it, probably like maybe 30 hours total, trying everything I could think of. People way crazier than me have still gone on doing it
Jesus.
this whole time.
Well, they're gonna be the one to solve it and get all the glory.
Well, here's the thing. I think it was today. Yeah, I think today or yesterday, Capcom sent out an email to like people that signed up for the newsletter that had like a cut off finger, and it's like, what does the finger do? Maybe have patience, and it was like a calendar that said September.
Oh, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Wait, no, are they doing what the Phantom Pain conspiracy theorists actually thought? Were there
I think so.
Are they going to patch in more content?
I think what happened, and this is my personal theory, is that they really didn't intend to have a solution. They just left all this shit in there to get people to talk about it. Saw the crazy reaction of people going, "Hey man, if they really don't have a solution to this, I'm not buying Resident Evil 7." And went, "Oh fuck. Uh Patience. All will be revealed in the future."
That's lame.
It's so bad. And I was so mad about this, and at this point I'm just kind of indifferent because my anger has kind of I've gone through all the emotions. And the bottom line is like the demo itself is like when you take out all the mystery shit, it's really short and not that great. It's okay, you know.
Yeah.
I'll see what the full game is like, but as a demo without anything more, it's pretty bare bones. And the funniest thing about it is that all this mysterious stuff led to us to pick apart the demo, and all we found was that it's kind of a buggy piece of shit. Because there's so many things that are like, hey man, I found something really weird and mysterious. Yeah, it's just a bug. It's just so buggy.
Oh.
And
Well,
like that has been the biggest waste of time for me, and I just needed to get that off my chest because man, fuck that demo.
okay, so I haven't played the Resident Evil 7 demo. I downloaded it literally like the minute it was like, hey, it's up on North American PSN, because it took a really long time actually from that announcement. It like came out literally everywhere else in the world before North America. It was weird.
It was like 3 a.m. I think.
Yeah, and like I downloaded it pretty much second one, I think actually, and like I just haven't touched it yet. And like you said, actually, everyone talked about PT. I feel like because they tried so hard to emulate PT, actually, like it's less special, and now people don't give as much of a shit. Because PT was such a brilliant idea, and I don't think you're ever gonna fully recapture that with that same idea. Like you're never gonna get that fire again like you did with PT.
It's shameless too. It's shameless. There's even a creepy ghost girl for no reason.
Oh, that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh,
So,
okay.
well, I guess like even like before that, I want to start this with like the heading and then like underline this like 4 times. The first thing we know about Resident Evil 7, we want to take it back to its horror roots. So here's my problem with this statement.
Okay.
First thing, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil as a series has never really had like ghosts. It's all like biological like zombie shit and like mutations and like creepy transformations and non-human ascensions, shit like that. Having a ghost is stupid, especially when you know as soon as 7 comes out they're gonna explain that as like some really dumb like, oh, it was the Ghost Goober 400 with
I will say that the hints are already there that it's not really a ghost.
Yeah, it's just a little girl that was infected with the PT virus, which
Yeah.
is
Oh, that's solid.
like, yeah, like the prototype T virus. No,
Yeah.
um, and then so that's my first problem. Second problem, and like this is so much a thing. I think the VR thing is kind of silly. Like, hopefully, when 7 comes out, and they've already said they're going to really push PlayStation VR. I hope it's solid, but also like this kind of has confirmed my one of my major worries with VR, where well, just like there's a lot of stuff in general I want to cram into the second point, but like the first thing is horror VR is a thing that most people think they want but don't actually want. Because with everything else that's scary, you can look away, close your eyes, whatever. The thing stops being there. When you have a virtual reality headset on, you have to shove that thing off of your face. And I don't think people realize that or necessarily really actually want that. A lot of people just think they do. I think that's I don't like that as a concept. I really hope the full game isn't in first person when
It
it
is.
comes. Oh, it is. Damn it. Well, that's
It's
lame.
not it's not mandatory to have VR with it though.
That's yeah, I know that. And like that's good, but just like I hope the fact that it's being made for VR doesn't lead to some stupid stuff. Like I hope when you play it without VR it still feels like a very complete full experience. Um and then this also is like the final part of the second point I want to make. Uh every like well not everyone but like I want to say a good 70% of the articles I read about people's VR experience with RE7 was, man, it made me sick. And
Mm.
I saw a lot of journalists that were even like, I've played all these VR games at all these different game shows. Resident Evil 7 was the first one to make me almost want to puke. And that really, and like none of them has ever really been able to describe it, like why, but just like there's this
Yeah.
overall consensus of like, for whatever reason, this is the one making people feel really like gross.
Does it have to do with like the way the VR works or the content of the game?
The VR, like just as soon as they
Okay.
start moving, just motion sickness.
Oh, interesting.
And like there's a lot of E3 impressions that are just like I've been on like VR like this whole like Oculus thing and like onwards from like day one, and I've never had a problem. Resident Evil 7 was like the first time I got sick, and I've heard that so many times and seen that across a lot of articles, and that kind of worries me as like a thing. And just like I get like VR needs like a big game to be the one to like really push it. I just kind of feel bad because it's like I don't know how that works with Resident Evil. Um,
I'm in. See, okay, so I've tried the Oculus and I've tried the PlayStation VR. Um, I'm not sold.
oh,
Honestly, I'm just not sold. I think the idea is great. I don't think the content's gonna be there. And like you said, Resident Evil 7, I don't think that's a system seller because hey, this VR headset, it's a system. It's priced like a system. It's a system.
yeah,
I don't think Resident Evil 7 is a system seller, and every other thing they've announced had the caveat of being the VR experience or the VR level.
which is gonna be like an hour long thing that you're
Yeah.
done with. Yeah. No, like I feel like, yeah, like that X-Wing game they showed off at E3? Like I feel like something like that is the thing you need, not like this very slow-paced horror-y like thing that's well, first of all, it's called Resident Evil 7. I think that enough for a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, why would I jump in here?" Like I feel like that's kind of either make a new thing or take one of those experiences and flesh it out more. And I think that's kind of going to be your jumping on point for people. I don't know if 7 like RE7 is like the best place for that sort of move. I think that's kind of weird, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super not sold on the whole thing yet.
Yeah, I've yet to really try one out, and like I want to, but like it's really weird because I get motion sick with some things. Like I'm not big on amusement park rides. And like that's not fully because like I get sick, like I kind of do, but like I can deal. But like I'm really weird with like cars where sometimes I'm fine, very rarely if like I'm on a road trip or something, and if I'm not sitting in like the passenger seat or driving, like I'll start to feel queasy. The only thing that will fully set off like me feeling motion sick is if I'm in a moving vehicle and I attempt to read for any like if I attempt to read like a book for longer than a minute, I just can't deal and like I start to get sick. Um, and what's really weird actually I found is like if I'm reading like a screen, sometimes that'll happen, sometimes it won't. I'm not sure why. Like I have this I have really really selective motion sickness, I guess. And like so like this whole time it's like, man, I feel really bad if like I paid $400 and like bought a game for like a VR experience thing and then like I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I would definitely say anyone in your position should wait.
Exactly, and that's like the thing where it's like, well, first of all, like I don't know anyone who's going to ever like have one of these, and like there's no realistic way for me to try it out. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna waste all that money on a thing that I may not possibly be even able to handle. And like, just from what I've seen and what from like I've looked at, like I feel like I'd be fine. But the fact that the risk is there at all for that price, fuck no, you know, like
Yeah,
that I'm never gonna bother. Um,
I mean the only thing I can say is maybe check your local GameStop. Mine had a PlayStation VR set up for a couple days. Hopefully sometime in the future when it comes out, you'll be able to demo it.
yeah, like I think that'd probably be my best bet. Um, And then like also too, but even with that, like if we're getting like game journalists and stuff saying like, well, I wasn't sick, but then this one specific game made me sick. Man, how shitty would it be if you just bought like you were fine for like a year or two, you had VR, and then like either you get like an indie game that like the developer just didn't know what they were doing and couldn't make a very good VR game and just it makes you sick because it's poorly made or calibrated or whatever, or even if you buy this big AAA $60 thing and it's just like, oh, this specific game makes me feel queasy, so I can't play this for very long. Like that would suck, you know? um
But I mean, man, I just want to get to the point where I'm living in dot hack though.
okay. Oh.
No, like when I was a kid, that was the thing, you know. It's like, oh man, dot hack. I want a VR video game situation, and I feel like we're close, but it's just not there yet, and they need to iron it all out, and they need to work on it.
I don't want to live in the Matrix. Wake up,
Oh,
sheeple.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, what? I mean, now I feel weird.
Yeah, I know. Fucking what, I don't even remember the dude from the Matrix that betrayed them. I don't remember his name.
uh, ignorance is bliss.
Steak eat. Yeah, that guy. I like how I said eat instead of bite, but whatever. Um, yeah, no, that dude with the creepy mustache that betrayed everyone. This is a good movie, The Matrix.
Yeah,
Um,
this is a good segment too.
controversial opinions. The Matrix is a good movie. Ooh,
Oh,
ooh, we're testing boundaries waters here. No, but oh, then yeah, I want to move on to my third point. And this is my third and final point. When the fuck was like the whole like roots of Resident Evil like pure horror? Like,
never.
yeah, and like that's part of my thing where it's like I know this isn't the case because like as of like I guess like even you could make the case for a lot of games, but like in Revelations 2, like I don't really like that game, but like there's a lot of shit that they throw around like just Barry's presence. Like they know it's a cheesy thing. But if that game hadn't have existed, aside from like some minor references and gags that they've thrown out, like if they're saying like, yeah, we're bringing it back to its roots and this is what they thought the roots are, I really want to believe there's some Capcom higher ups that just fully believe and are like immersed in Resident Evil 1 through 3 and just take it at face value and like they don't think it's cheesy at all, and that makes me really happy. Um but
I
yeah,
actually
it's weird.
that you bring up an interesting thing, and I kind of have a not well agreed upon opinion of Resident Evil's direction. Um, Now I will not pretend that Resident Evil 6 was a good game. It was pretty bad. It was sloppy, all over the place, mismanaged, and didn't know what it wanted to be. But the one thing I will give that game is that Resident Evil to me has always been the video game version of a B horror movie. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like it's
Oh,
schlocky.
that's totally what it is.
It's schlocky horror, and I think the original Resident Evil was pretty accurate to B horror movies of that era. And whatever you want to say about Resident Evil 6, that is a B horror movie of today.
Would you say it's like in line with like from what I've seen of 6 and like played briefly of it, friends and stuff, that seems more in line with like You know how a lot of like movies that are like horror movies nowadays are like, oh, the disaster flick. That's
Yeah.
kind of what those like what six is trying to do in it.
It kind of it's like a mix between that and like the sci-fi original B horror shit, where it's like, oh, here's the giant uh dinosaur monster.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, you saw Sharknado kind of thing, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, Resident Evil 6 is a bad game, but I feel like at least it was true to the B horror movie roots of Resident Evil, even though it was a different type.
Also, too, it's gonna be kind of weird because with seven, it seems like they're probably gonna be toning it back by like a lot. Because like that was one thing with six. I know a lot of people like it's just like the world is so fucked up throughout six, you know. So it's like, man, seven's gonna be really weird because like if it's like, oh, it's gonna take like, what if they do the thing where it's like, oh, it all takes place in a mansion, right? It's gonna be like, man, well, that probably isn't super important to the overall thing. Which like,
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, who cares? But like, also too, it's just kind of, it's funny how like four kind of ramps it, four and five kind of ramp it up to be like, oh, this like tiny little community or like this country, you know, are like starting to get infected everywhere, and like then six takes it even further, and then seven's like, oh yeah, we're gonna rein in a little bit again.
And hey, they have confirmed it is a sequel. It takes place after 6.
That's great.
So we'll see where that goes.
Remember when after five they're like, oh, we're gonna reboot this?
Yeah.
Those are good times.
I think they're honestly kind of afraid to.
Yeah, probably.
And honestly, if this isn't a reboot, I don't think we're ever going to get one.
Oh, probably
Because
not.
this,
I don't
this
think
is
so
the
at
time
this
to
point.
reboot it.
Yeah, I don't think so at this point. Um, I don't see them doing that anymore. But also too, like, you know what? If you're not gonna reboot it, fuck it. Bring Wesker back. He deserves to be back. I don't want to see him just fully be dead now. I want you to just keep bringing him back like a comic book villain, just over and over again. It'd be
Might
great.
as well. Comes Bio Wesker.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wait, fuck.
Oh
That was
shit.
Resident Evil 5.
Wait, you're right. Well, you can
Anyway.
keep doing it bio Wesker. He's even
Yeah.
more of a monster now. Yeah, and that's Resident Evil 7 talk.
Yep, that was good.
You know what came out and was actually good and no one has any problems with it all?
What's that?
Overwatch. That's
Overwatch.
that's a good video game that I
That is
thought
a
was
good
going to be
video
bad.
Man, that was so not on my radar at all.
Same.
And like to the point where I would hear commercials for it every day at work nonstop, and in the back of my mind I was like, oh yeah, it's that game, and would
Yeah.
never look at the screen.
I'm pretty sure that was announced at like an E3 and like I saw it and I was like, man, that looks like shit TF2 clone thing that they're trying really hard to push. And also too, I still stand by this. Overwatch is a fucking awful, like it's a really boring title. Like I don't think it's a very good name. And I think part of like that combination of just like I thought that original trailer did not look interesting at all, and like that title, I was just like, I don't care. Also too, like as like a general thing, like Blizzard stuff never really, like I know there's some people that like play video games and like they only play Blizzard stuff. I don't know, like I've never been super into Blizzard games, I guess. Like and part of that is just because I'm not a big PC guy. Like I got a little bit into Diablo here and there and stuff, but other than that, yeah, they just like I never really cared for their other stuff. And then the Overwatch beta happened, and people were like, "Oh, it's really good, actually." And then I played it, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is actually really, really good." And I think well, I mean, I played the beta with you, and like we just had a party, and I would say every individual member of that like party, I think it was only a weekend. It was like, or no, it was about a week long beta, I'd say. But like we all put in about 15 hours into that beta alone.
Yeah.
It was really ridiculous.
And I think every single, like almost every single person in that party then went, yeah, I guess I'll get this.
Yeah, like actually, I'm pretty sure everyone we played with in that thing just like, yeah, well, that's $60 that I lost. Yep, just fucking give it to me. No, Overwatch is great. Like, there's so much stuff about that. Like, I don't know. I've dwelled on the fact, maybe even on this podcast, that like I've really wanted just like a competitive shooter thing. Because like I don't know if people probably know this about me at this point. Like I used to kind of do some like Call of Duty 4 like clan stuff way back, and like do some like minor competitive stuff there. Like not like super serious, and like it wasn't like I was super great or anything. But like it was really fun playing like a competitive thing and seeing yourself get better, and like be better than the normal player and know a lot of advanced like tech and stuff, and some skills and like stats and shit that the average player doesn't even realize exists and stuff like that. And like that's just like a really fun experience that I've kind of wanted, like at least to some extent, maybe not like a to fully relive, but just something competitive that was just easy to pick up and play and do good stuff on or whatever. And Overwatch is like I think the first game that actually has fully filled that void for me. And well, I mean, I haven't played in like a week and a half, but it's just a really fun game to just like pop in when you have some free time and play a match or two. It's really fun.
I was kind of the opposite in the fact that I never really thought I would want that kind of game because first person shooters just isn't really my genre, and I'm not super into the competitive stuff. But I played that beta, and man, I just had so much fun that I didn't want to stop. You know, I just wanted to keep playing.
You know what I think helped, and like this was like partially that I noticed with like uh when like we convinced you to get on, try it out, and like also some other people that I've just seen like on Twitter and stuff, where there are characters in that game where if you like feel really bad about, oh, I can't aim and kill things, and like I'm not good at that sort of thing. There are like characters that focus on turrets or like defensive stuff or healing that are
Yeah.
perfect, because at that point it just becomes a case of move around the map in a way that doesn't get you killed, but also lead, like it's basically just a game of positioning at that point and being in the right place at the right time, rather than, oh, I need to focus on killing these other players or taking this objective in a way. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you're always taking the objective no matter who you are, but like for certain characters that just means supporting the other, like it's literally called a support class, where they just support another player and make sure that they don't die and stuff like that, which is really nice.
And that leads you into playing other characters too.
No, I think that's something really good too that they do, where after like a couple matches it becomes pretty apparent that you need to have at least, I'd say at a bare minimum, four characters that you feel comfortable playing, and everyone on the team needs to be able to kind of be flexible and move around and kind of specialize regarding what the team needs. And that's like a super useful skill. The more characters you know how to play in like a decent setting, like the more the more beneficial you're going to be to your team, because you are going to need to switch out, and the other team's going to be switching out, and you're going to be into a situation where it's like, oh, there's a lot of turrets on that team, I need to switch to like Farah or a sniper and just get rid of those, because dipshit 1 and dipshit 2 on our team keep running in and getting killed by the turrets, so I need to just take those out so they can run in and do what they need to and stuff like that. And just it kind of becomes this thing where very organically, even if you're not very good at shooters or don't feel comfortable with them, like it just kind of eases you into the direction of leading you to kind of try out more offensive stuff and understanding and kind of getting how to play in a way, which I think is really neat. Like it's very ingenious how that game is designed.
Yeah, the way I started it was played like Thorborn, however you pronounce his name, the dwarf, and
Torbjorn.
I Torborn, Dwarfbeard, and I started trying a little bit of Mercy out, and then I forget who it was, but like one or two people kept going, "Hey Zach, you should try out Diva. You know, I think you'll like Diva if you want like a more offensive character." So I was like, "All right, I guess I'll try it out," and then I loved it. So I started like maining Diva, I guess you could say. And then, I was playing between like our group that we played with, and then I had a couple of other friends that got the game. And eventually I was like, man, I love playing as Diva, but it doesn't always work out that way with that I can play as Diva. So let me try another offensive character. Let me see how I am with Roadhog. Let me see how I am with Farah. Let me see how I am with Symmetra. And it's like, oh, I'm learning characters that I'm good and bad with. And just naturally.
Yeah, and like it really helps too that it's like, how do I play this character? Pop up the menu that details the five moves they have, and
Yeah,
then after
it's
a
not
couple,
complicated.
and after a couple matches, like I'd say after two matches of just using that character straight through, you like the buttons are, it comes naturally. It's like, okay, I'm playing as Roadhog. This is how I change someone, and like even on the UI, it has the buttons displayed out for your main actions and other stuff. Like, I think the only thing that it's like, oh, sometimes when I'm playing as Lucio or sometimes when I'm playing as Hanzo, it's like I totally forget that I can like walk on walls and stuff, just because like it's kind of other characters can. When I play those characters, it doesn't even cross my mind that I can't do that. Um, but yeah, like it's just really good at like being pretty simple, and like it's one of those things like easy to learn, hard to master. Um, it's one of those games definitely where if you don't have people to play with, I think it's still fun, and I still regularly pop on or whatever whenever, I just have some free time to kill alone and just play. But I do think it's a thing where if you have a team of 6 people that aren't talking and are just like randoms, and then you have a full 6-player team that they're communicating and like they're friends and they all know each other, that team's always going to win pretty much most of the time, I'd say. Like it's a game that heavily relies on teamwork, but also within that, I think that it gives you enough tools and like in-game communication stuff, and just the fact that it's a pretty basic game at the end of the day, I'd say. Most of the advanced stuff is a little bit more of like just team synergy stuff. Uh, you never feel as though it's too complex or like you need to highly coordinate in a way that like you need to practice and like spend like days coming up with flowcharts and stuff just to figure out what you need to do to win. It's just a matter of like, hey, stay behind my shield, or hey, let me heal you before you run out and get yourself killed. Like, it's really basic stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely it's well made. It's a game that if you're someone that's like, oh, I only really play RPGs, I only really play adventure games. I am not a first person shooter person, and I got into it so hard. At least give it a try, because it's designed in a way that if you're new to shooters, there's an easy way in, and then if you're good at shooters, there's a lot to master.
Yep. Also follow at Reaper Names on Twitter.
Hey man, Sephiroth Lord 16.
Ah, man, I made an Overwatch May Twitter account. It's called at Reaper Names. It took off a little bit more than I expected. I think I'm closing in at, hold on, let's check right now, actually live on show.
Let's do it.
I'm getting my phone, it's
Feel
charging.
my hatred.
Oh yeah. Dr. Dong Long or whatever the fuck that guy's name was. Yeah, we're almost at 15,000 followers. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, maybe soon.
Oh man,
But
Reaper Names YouTube exposed.
yeah, gasp. No, but yeah, I made a Twitter called at Reaper Names where I make fun of Edgelord and just overall stupid people or stupid usernames. Most of the people that play those usernames are probably dumb, but except for the people that find that they've been posted on Reaper Names and are like, "Hey, that's me." No, you guys are cool. It's just the people that don't find it. Those people are the dumb ones.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Yep. No. Yeah, I pretty much just made this shit posting account to make fun of Reaper players, and like it took off super hardcore. And now I just like post like side little like random dumb jokes and make fun of Battleborn, and everyone eats it all up, and they're like, "Yeah, this is great." And then I'm like, "Yeah,
It's almost like you're good at doing the internet thing.
yeah." You know what I will actually say though, as someone who is like kind of shifted his college path from like programming to, hey, I want to maybe do some social media stuff. This was such a confidence boost. Like, it's really ridiculous, and it's like, this isn't something I could ever put on a resume, but it's like, hey, I can do this, and like I can cultivate an account that like people find enjoyable and like will go along with. And I was like, okay, like this is a little less scary of like a possible path in my life. So that was kind of neat to see, actually. But
Hey man, at the risk of this being a little awkward, you're pretty good at it.
yeah, I love shit posting.
Oh.
Yep, that'll
Yep.
that'll be a thing. So this I'll just put on my
best.
resume: professional shit poster. Hire me, Lowe's, or
Actually, I mean, it's pretty close to being true, man.
Sonic the Hedgehog is a thing.
You know what?
Everyone
if
loves
Sonic
that.
Hedgehog could do it, you could do it.
Yeah, that's never a piece of advice I thought I'd hear in my life. Holy shit.
No, that's the best advice. Shut
Yeah.
up.
I'm really actually kind of depressed because I'm looking at this like follower count of like almost 15,000. It's like, man, this is the most impact I'll probably have on humanity on any given scale, and I'm so alright with this. This is great. I I love that. Like this is the most like I one day I just looked at like my Twitter analytics or whatever because like they tell you like, oh, this is like the overall like user impressions you've made, like how many people have seen your shit. It is a ridiculously high number, and I'm just like, holy shit, like man, I have touched more people with this stupid joke than I ever thought possible, and that's great. This is my magnum opus.
Yeah, on the tombstone, it'll be your name and then at Reaper names.
Yeah. Follow it still. I'll give it. I'll give it to my child. You know, they can carry on in my stead.
It's the Red Dead Redemption of Twitter.
Yeah, and there'll be like a movie rights fiasco. Good times.
Excited.
Yep. No. So yeah, that's fun. It is. I feel kind of bad too because like I said, I haven't played Overwatch in like a week and a half. It's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, at Reaper names, hey, Overwatch jokes, and I'm like, oh,
Hey man,
I haven't played in a bit.
why haven't you played Overwatch in a week and a half?
Uh, cause not because I had a Wii U,
Um,
which I got Friday, so if that time scale doesn't work, but nice try. This is a good one. You attempted the segue, you went
no,
for it, I shot it down.
you were just so excited about the Wii U that you couldn't play Overwatch,
Nope, I
right?
just sat in bed all day and thought about Mario 3D World.
Oh,
Okay, you know what? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the Wii U for a little bit here. But I will start by saying that I got the refurbished 32 gigabyte one that came bundled with Nintendo Land and Mario 3D World. Not really expecting to play both of those, but then I actually got the console itself. I'm like, oh well, I have no games, of course, so I might as well play them. Nintendo Land's okay, I guess, but like, man, I didn't expect Mario 3D World to be that fun. It's really fun. Um, so yeah, I got a Wii U. That's all I really want to talk about Mario 3D World. It's a Mario game. There's not much to really talk about, to be honest. It's just pure joy. I like it a lot. Um, yeah, the Wii U is weird because it's like I picked one up honestly kind of because it's like Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming out. Really want that game. It looks really neat. And also too, there is like a Nintendo dude that came out recently that the sales figures came out and like it's basically been confirmed that the Wii U was only slightly less of a failure than the Dreamcast was, which is really sad. And like I've had problems with Nintendo, and like Nintendo makes me mad with a lot of stuff. But man, the Wii U had some cool stuff, and also it's always kind of sad to see it do that bad, you know. So, but there's a Nintendo salesperson that was like, if you want a Wii U, you should probably just get one now. And like part of that is like to me, like okay, that's probably a little bit disingenuous, but like you know what, on the off chance that these become rare or like kind of pricey, I might as well, whatever, fuck it. And also TMS is coming out, so hey. So I just spit the bullet and bought refurbished. So this is actually something that I've heard about on and off. There's actually someone on Twitter that was like, "Yeah, I bought a refurbished Wii U and a refurbished new 3DS XL. Both of them are like perfectly mint condition. Highly recommend it." And just from like other places on the internet and like some people I know have bought refurbished from Nintendo, they're like, "It's practically brand new, minus like maybe one or two things." Um, the quality my Wii U came in was super good. There is one very faint, long scratch on the very top of the console that, if the light hits it, you can see it. But other than that, I wouldn't even notice it was there. If like my desk where I have the Wii U on wasn't right near a window, I probably would still not even know that that was a thing. Um, and also like one of my buttons was like I like got the Wii U gamepad out and like there's just like a lot of dust on one of the buttons on the gamepad. And I just brushed it off and it's fine now, but like I was kind of weirded out by that.
just one
Like
button.
yeah, just like it was like the X button, all like the dust collected there and I was just like what the like it looked dirty at first and I was like, "Oh no, that's ooh." But then like I just cleared it off and it's like, "No, that was just all dust." Okay. And
I
like
feel
it's
like it's part of a puzzle.
the RE7 demo is in my oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was really weird. But no, the refurbished quality is great. Like, the only thing that I was kind of worried at first, I'm like, oh man, this gamepad doesn't last very long. And then I googled it, and I'm like, oh, it just doesn't last that long. Okay, never mind. So I was a little worried about that, but no, that's just battery life for that isn't the highest. So I have it on power saving mode now. That actually helps a bit more than I was expecting. But
I just play with it plugged in.
yeah, that makes sense too. Um, so like I just want some general Wii U like impressions real quick. I feel kind of bad to say it, man. just going from like a console user experience, kind of understand why this thing ain't selling like hotcakes. And like I know a lot of the reason it's not doing great is well, first of all, the name is a huge thing. Also, too, the fact that a lot of the Wii audience has since moved on to like tablets and smartphones, which is very obvious. Um, Setting that thing up was such a weird experience because like for quite a few years actually into the previous generation I only had a Wii, and then later on I got a PS3, and just as less and less stuff came out for the Wii, because like the Wii was always that thing where it's like, oh, there's a bunch of like this, that's kind of where the whole shovelware term was thrown around like candy. But like a lot of Wii games, are these like arcadey mini game collections, but then you'd get the occasional thing like Mad World or No More Heroes or Mario Galaxy, where it's like, this is really cool and worth playing. But like, that's kind of what my Wii was to me. It was just like, there's the occasional really cool game, and then the rest of the time it's like, if I want to play Virtual Console or something, it's always there. Um, but like, I guess because I didn't use the Wii for quite a few years until like, I want to play like a specific thing, I forgot some of the weird Nintendo isms to their like interfaces and stuff. And just like setting up that console was such a bizarre experience where it's like, okay, so there's these four different icons. Click on the gamepad so that they match the things on the TV screen, and I was just like, is this like a like a am I in a 999 puzzle right now? Like what's going on here? This is am I gonna explode if I don't do this right? Like it was crazy. Um, and also, there are at least two times, maybe three, but I counted at least two times during that setup process where they pretty much say, hey, if you're a fucking stupid child under the age of 18, have your parent do this for you, you little dipshit. I'm just like, oh. Like, the PS4 just was like, hey, just confirm this and then sign in. And, like, it was just really weird being told, hey, if you're a child, stop right now. And it's like, oh, okay. Um, and
Because we
just
all know children can't play their Nintendo games.
no, and like it's really weird, and like I get they very obviously still care about being family friendly, and like obviously there's going to be a lot of kids that like want to do that sort of thing. But man, do I feel like actually my Wii U setup time was a lot longer than the PS4's was.
Oh, dude, the Wii U setup time is ridiculous.
I feel like I'm imagining a Christmas where the kid gets the Wii U, then is constantly shouting in the other room for his mom or dad to like do the thing because the Nintendo is like, no, fuck you, child, get your parent, and Christmas is ruined for everyone forever. It's like the anti Wii, um, and like, yeah, it was just so weird because then also too, I just actually yesterday I went through the Wii to Wii U transfer, and that was such a fucking God. Nintendo needs an account system so bad. Oh my God, it's
Uh,
ridiculous.
and
Um,
one better than the one they've tried to make now.
yeah, well, it's not even a real account system. Like,
Well, they tried like the mine and like didn't they make a new one like this year or last
yeah,
year?
yeah, there's like a My Nintendo. Well, there's like the Nintendo Network like ID thing, and then there's like the My Nintendo, which like you log in using your Nintendo Network ID. It's really weird. Um, but like you can't just like go on there like for like I'm thinking of the time, and I'd maybe be less negative if I didn't have this experience, but I'm thinking of the time I bought a Vita TV, a PlayStation TV, but whatever, it's a Vita TV. I don't care what Sony says. Um, and it's like, hey, I have all these different PS1 classic games that I downloaded for my PS3. I can just install any of those I want on my Vita TV just by logging into my PSN that I've had forever and just saying, yeah, I want to download it on this system now. The Nintendo process for like the Wii to Wii U is like, okay, plug in the SD card, you gotta download these two separate channels, gotta plug it into here, plug it, take it out, plug it into here, wait for it to transfer over. Both of these need to be connected to the internet at all times. And it's just like, holy shit, it took like, I want to say a good hour to 2 hours. And I feel like if you had more stuff than I did on there, it'd take a whole day just to transfer. And it's like, man, you guys really the friend code thing totally fucked you over. Like, just make an account and just have it be one thing so I can download this. And then also too, I feel bad for the people that like wanted to use their Wii because after you do the transfer, there is just nothing left on your Wii.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I don't understand it. Um, you know what's actually really funny? So everything I read was like a help article or like support stuff or like guides from like 2014, early 2015. And those must have changed from then because apparently, because my Wii is hacked to shit, and I'm like, well, I don't want to brick anything, so I want to make sure I read up on that before I do it officially, right? Um, and just reading it, it's like, okay, so basically what it says is it's apparently what it used to do is it used to just delete the homebrew stuff off during the transfer process and be like the following stuff is not official and won't transfer over, and it just lists the stuff you have on that's not going to transfer. And now they don't even do that. They just transfer and delete everything else, and then on my Wii right now it's just blank, and then I have all of my homebrew stuff. So my Wii is effectively just a homebrew machine now. It's really weird, and I don't understand it. Like I kind of I do like that they took out the thing where it's like we're just gonna delete all like because like if you're that anal that it's like we're gonna delete all like the cool shit you added to your system or whatever. It's like I understand why, but like come on. So I'm glad they took that out, but it's just really weird because it's like oh well. I guess I'll just use my Wii to emulate Game Boy Advance games I want to play on my TV now that aren't on Wii U VC. I guess it's super weird. Um, but yeah, and also too, all of like, so if you had homebrew on your Wii, you could may or may not do a thing where you put games on a hard drive in .iso format and played them on your Wii. So I now have a save file for Xenoblade Chronicles on my Wii U that was from an illegitimate copy of that game. I'm
Oh.
like, that's just super weird that it can't detect that, but I guess it is just technically a save file. Um, but yeah, now that actually that's on Wii U VC for like $20, I can just download that. Other than that, and just like the whole transfer stuff and setup being weird, uh, man, that Nintendo eShop is barren. And like I was looking through, it's like, what's the stuff currently on sale? And it's like, oh, Killer Bunnies 3. And I'm like, oh, ooh, oh no.
I understand why they wanted to do a staggered release of all the content, but it was such a bad idea.
It's man, I had the experience the other day actually where they updated it recently. Like just the most recent update they had for the eShop. And it's like, yeah, Super Mario RPG is now on the Wii U VC, and I was like that wasn't already there?
Right?
Like it's that blows my mind. And it's like, well, I had that and that's like a weird thing too where it's like, oh, I had that on my Wii and then it's like, oh, pay the upgrade cost so you can play it on the gamepad now. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll pay a bunch of like it's anywhere from like $1 to $2, like depending on the system and stuff. But it just feels really weird, you know. Especially when for so many PS4, PS3, Vita games, it's like a cross buy situation where just you buy it on one and you get it for at least another thing. It's really weird that that upgrade cost is there, but I understand why it is because they did add some functionality to stuff. Like you have a save state now. You can play it on the gamepad. Uh, I had a really weird situation actually where I never actually owned Super Mario 64 on the Virtual Console just because for the longest time I still just had a Nintendo 64 around. Then after I got rid of it, I just played on my computer with a controller or whatever. But I'm like, you know what? So I'll get Super Mario 64. I'll play it on the Wii U. Apparently, that's like the one Wii U Virtual Console port that's just really bad. The colors are a lot less vibrant for whatever reason. Like they Man of Steeled it. I didn't think I'd
Huh.
reference that this podcast. Like the colors are just a lot more like washed out, and also there's like a. And this is really weird too because normally, like like games have input lag or whatever. They're like, oh, there's so many dropped frames or so many frames of like input lag or whatever. I'm normally not the type of guy that notices that sort of thing. But it was a really weird experience because Super Mario 64 is a game that I've played on and off for like a while. Like it was my first video game I ever set my hands on, and I've just always like, at least probably once a year, I've probably at least opened up like an emulator and played Bomb Battlefield or whatever, just the first level. It took me this game to really feel some sort of lag just because I'm so familiar with how that game controls that it's like I feel like my like timing on my triple jumps is a little bit off here. And I looked it up and it's like, oh yeah, the port for this one was just kind of bad. So it's of course with my luck, the one VC game I try out on the gamepad right away, it's like, oh, this is slightly broken one. It's still fine, but like it's just kind of weird. But yeah, Wii U is it's weird. Also too, like the giant diagram of like what controllers you can use for what game is mind-boggling. But
Uh,
yeah, it's fun. It's just I think Nintendo kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with
a
this
bit.
one. Yeah, a lot of it. The foot is
Had
no longer
potential,
there.
but
Yeah, and also too, sometimes there. Okay, like I've noticed too, like there's like a weird lack of consistency too that kind of bothered me with some virtual console prices. Like some stuff seem more expensive than others, and I think it's just like, oh, if it's a more popular thing, sometimes it's a bit more pricey. Um, but like then there's stuff too where Nintendo's official policy for Wii U Virtual Console is like, hey, if the game had classic controller support, you can play it on the gamepad with the gamepad controls, and you can do that with Xenoblade. I think there's like one or two other games. Resident Evil 4 is a game that had classic controller support. If you buy that game, and I almost did because the idea of playing Resident Evil 4 on my gamepad in my bed, all like you know cuddly up and in a blanket or whatever, sounded really great to me. But I looked it up beforehand. That game had classic controller support. For whatever reason, gamepad controls are turned off for no reason. Like,
mm,
why? It's just this weird. And to be fair, that's probably more on Capcom. But like, I feel like that's a thing that they should have just enforced to be like, no, like, put this in as a function. You know, like it's really weird, and I don't understand it. I'm sure I'll get used to it over time, but yeah, it's bizarre. But no. Other than that, though, and my Wii U qualms, there's one thing on Wii U that is objectively the best. That is Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE.
would you say it's Kawashi Tai?
I don't want to break it. I think that's what that translates to. I don't know.
uh, I mean that's a word that has transcended its meaning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Yeah, it's translated a few ways. Like I want to destroy, breaking through. No, it's just something is Kawashi Tai. You know.
No, yeah, that's for reincarnation. Yeah, idols, performa. So that's a game we've both been playing, and it's
Are we just throwing out concepts now?
yeah, fuck it,
Carnage form.
Avatar Tuner. Um,
Oh,
I'm jumping the gun here.
negotiation system.
uh,
Megaton.
Final Apocalypse. Wait, no.
Whoa, why wasn't it called that?
Final Apocalypse. Yeah, just keep the final add-on Apocalypse. That would have worked great. No,
It's actually kind of cool.
that's
In like the dumbest way.
it's not.
No, it is. I want
No,
it now.
wait, hold on. Let's split the difference. Final Apocalypse.
Okay.
There we go. I made it less cool.
No,
We're
no,
doing
no,
it.
no, no. It's good.
Okay, I'll
Now,
take
now,
your word
now
for
it's
it.
like a Kojima thing. I'm okay with it.
Oh yeah, Death Stranding. Norman
Oh yeah,
Reedus.
Death Stranding.
Norman Reedus and his little fetus.
Hey, that looks really cool. I'll talk about it when we actually know something.
Yeah, but it's not going to be as good as TMS's though, so fuck it. So
Yes.
TMS is a masterpiece. It's objectively better than Nocturne. You can't
I
text
mean,
your
10 out of 10, right?
you
Like,
you can't text your friend in Nocturne. It's there's
you're
no
not an
singing.
idol in Nocturne.
Yeah, there's no singing in Nocturne. Like Nocturne shit. Like let's just get that out of the way. TMS is just objectively the best Mega 10.
Wait, did people actually like Nocturne? I thought that was just a joke.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was just a dumb meme. It's stupid.
Seriously.
Yeah. Man, they didn't have the voices in Nocturne. Instead of
Yeah.
just dubbing the game, they just took the voices out. Am I right?
Yeah, how lazy.
Yeah. There's someone here listening to this his first time, and they're just really upset right now. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, TMS is really good. Like, I expected to like it, and like I know going into it that a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's a PS2 quality Mega 10." But like, I guess I never really took that super to heart until like I actually picked it up, and I'm like, "This is up there," and like,
It if it
it's
had come
weird.
if this had come out right after like Persona 4 and Raito 2, it would not feel like we skipped anything.
Nope. It feels right, like it feels so similar to that style. It's
Yeah.
bizarre, and it's like, man, I'm so happy we have another one of these because and I think a lot of people's opinion, like PS2 era Mega 10 is kind of the peak of the quality of that series. And like in some ways I agree with that, in some ways I disagree with that. But like it's very obvious, like it's high quality stuff, and like there's a lot of people that really do like the home console experience for JRPGs, and like obviously for budget reasons and like development cost stuff. Mega 10's been more of a handheld thing for quite a few years now. So to have another home console like full blown re-release before Persona 5 is pretty fucking cool, I think.
Yeah, I mean, before I go too far into like my personal feelings on the game, I will say to kind of address the initial reveal of the game. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Um,
everyone loved it.
yeah. Okay. So it's not it's not Shin Megami Cross Fire Emblem. You know,
You said Shin Megami, by the way. I'm gonna hold
I
that above.
realize that I've worked at GameStop too long.
Yeah, it's okay. You're not like the guy who works at the local one that calls it Shin Megs. So
Okay, so it's not Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. It's a completely separate thing that has references to both, you know?
yeah,
It go into this game expecting a new Megaton spinoff that's super light in tone. Don't go in expecting mainline SMT meets Fire Emblem.
mm-hmm, yeah,
And if you just go into it expecting a light-hearted JRPG with legitimately good Megaton gameplay, then you're gonna get what you want.
yeah. And I'll say like there's a lot of concern with this game being like emblematic of the whole Fire Emblematic, but no, um, of the whole, oh well, Mega 10 is going the direction of Persona and they keep trying to make everything more like Persona. I will say that this is very clearly to the extent where the word performa is said in game as like an actual term that they use. It's very obvious that this spin-off is the one that most closely resembles Persona, but they do that in a way where it still is very clearly something different. And I'd actually say that most of the Mega 10 influence I felt from this game, at least from a gameplay perspective, and I guess from like a tone, I'd even say that it's different enough from Persona, and that I actually think it handles a lot of very different themes. Like maybe the aesthetic is similar, but even then, like with the focus on the idle stuff, they make it stand out a bit more on its own. But it feels a lot more like Digital Devil Saga than I was expecting, to the extent where, like, in a weird way, this feels like the closest we're probably ever going to get to DDS3, and I'm super alright with that.
In what way?
Um, so you don't have monsters, you have like a form you turn into, and the Carnage like fusion system is just the mantra system. And how
Carnage Fusion
like
System?
you fuse the new weapons or whatever, and then you gain skills as like this sub XP bar fills up, and then you have to switch them out.
So I'm gonna you know what? Yeah, I didn't think of that. When I first played it, honestly, I felt that the that reminded me more of like the Magatama from Nocturne.
Yeah, I could see that too.
So yeah, I totally see it is kind of like Digital Devil Saga as well. Because when I played through it, like man, I see influences from all of them. I see there's a bit of Digital Devil Saga, there's a bit of mainline, and there's a bit of Persona. Like the way the buffs work is more like in Persona 3 and 4
Yep.
and stuff like that, where like it really does feel like they kind of looked at, hey, let's take what works from all the various spin-offs and do something new with it.
Yeah. And I guess my main thing was just like the fact that like you have set characters in a cast that have like forms then and like transform instead of like having the actual individual like critters and monsters and stuff. I don't know why I call them critters, but um,
Yeah, those little critters.
those little goobers, yeah. Um, that like that, but you want to know actually because like I was like, oh, took a bit from like mainline, took a bit from Persona, but the thing that's like, okay, this feels actually more DDS to me than the other ones, but I do agree they take stuff from everywhere. was I ran into this situation, and they actually they resolved this, but there's a point where I was like halfway through a dungeon, and it's like, oh, you learned all the skills you have available for this like skill like weapon slot thing or whatever. Uh, you're gonna need to go back to base and then select the different weapon you want. So if you want to progress your character more, and I'm just like, shit, I haven't run into this since DDS1 or sorry
Yeah.
DDS2, and I'm like, oh shit, it's just the mantra system. What the fuck am I doing? Holy shit, that's great. But what they do is that you get these like passive abilities called like radiant skills or something, and one of them is just teleport back to base right away. So like you do lose your dungeon progress, but it's not like this giant walk back that's annoying. So that's nice.
And so far, the dungeons haven't been too complex.
No, like it's really like they're more complex than say the stuff from like 4, which is just a bunch of hallways, but like they're designed just enough to be like involved and engaging, but like not super complex or convoluted or anything. And I actually really I think it works out a lot for this game.
Yeah, I mean that like, hey, they're better designed than the random stuff in Persona, but you're not
Yeah.
getting like Nocturne dungeons here.
No,
At least
yeah.
so far. I'm only on chapter 3, by the way.
I'm a bit into chapter 2, so
Okay. Um yeah, the dungeons seem pretty good, but man, that combat system's so good.
it's so good. The only thing I have really to complain about with, well, we can talk about the whole localization thing in a bit. Um,
Okay.
but my main complaint is like the UI takes some getting used to. Um, I feel like some stuff just kind of feels small, and I don't know, my TV's decent sized, but like the UI placement, it feels very, it felt very busy to me at first, and then like they add on a bit more shit, and I was just like, eh. But like after a while, it becomes more readable, and you get used to it. But like other than that, no, it feels great. The combo system is amazing. I feel like they're gonna do more with it than what I've experienced so far because
Yeah.
right now they have a thing where you exploit a weakness, and then if your other characters have these passive abilities that will allow them to link on to that, they'll do like a session combo thing, I think they call it. And so far for me that only goes up to 2 because well you have 3 party members, that's your max for the party. Um and you hit a weakness, and then if both of them can link on, it goes session 1 then session 2. Oh, good combo or whatever. I feel like it'd be kind of weird to have a counter like that if it only went up to 2. So I'm sure later on there's going to be some stuff where that goes higher, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want me to say anything, but
Uh, you can if you want. I don't really care. I don't know if the people listening care, but
well, I'll say this. I haven't run into that yet myself, but I've seen things in trailers. So
okay,
there's more to that system.
okay. Also too, I will say that like for anyone worried like oh it's gonna be super dumb casual, play this on hard. It's legit Mega 10.
Yo,
Um,
I'll stop you there. It's legit Megaton on normal.
oh really?
I never play through a game on hard my first playthrough. I always go in normal.
That's because
And
you suck.
hey, no, it's just I want to experience the baseline before I get into the legit stuff.
I'm flexing right now.
Replays will be on hard mode. Don't worry. But no, like man, that second boss, that was a legit boss. Like I died a few times
Are
and I
you
had to rethink.
are you talking the boss at the end of chapter 1?
Oh no, sorry, the boss at the end of chapter 2.
Okay, because I almost died. Okay, uh, on hard mode in chapter 1, um, if fuck it, I'll just say the character name is not that spoilery. Just the second main character. If Subasa's weakness just like I was level 14 for the chapter 1 boss, if Subasa's weakness gets hit on that difficulty, she's dead. And if you have Rakukaja, she's still bed. Bed. No, yep, she's bed. No, she's still dead because then the little like additional like the ads just will then session attack her. And that's one thing I like too is like kind of how enemies can press turn and nocturne or something. If the enemies have passives that allow them to link on too, they can session attack too. And like just I was in this boss fight where it's like, man, I have a party member that if they just get they can just die at any minute, and that can totally ruin like. And also when someone dies you really feel it because there's only 3 party members, so it's a problem. Um, and
Especially when there's like 5 enemies and you're like, damn, now I'm not gonna get another turn before they go.
yeah, it's really, really like if someone dies, it's rough. And I had like 10 of those curry things or whatever, and by the end of that fight, I used like 6 of them just on reviving her, and then like I think Toma died one time or whatever. Uh, and like I, the only reason I won that fight is because she had just a little bit health left, and she was like her next turn she was gonna revive her little her assistant enemies or whatever, and I would have just been completely fucked and probably died. And I had just enough of that bar filled to do one of those special attacks, and I barely won the fight by using that at the last minute. And like that just felt so rewarding, and it's like holy shit, this is like real Megaton gameplay. Like this
It
is
is,
great.
and honestly, hey, maybe slightly controversial here. It's harder than SMT4. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah. So far for I can see that.
a lot of that too comes down to the fact that like, hey, the enemies are pretty well balanced. At least the bosses. A lot of the little enemies or whatever at first. The bosses are pretty difficult, and then the way they do the buffs, like Persona, you can't exploit it. So you don't have the ability to exploit buffs as much as mainline, but the fights are harder than in Persona, so it kind of makes like this pretty decent challenge. That
Uh,
like maybe not as hard as Nocturne, but pretty decent.
You want to know one thing too that because the problem with SMT4 is your character grows way too fast compared to how that game can ramp up its difficulty. One thing I noticed is at least so far, like as you level up your Carnage like weapons or whatever and you gain more skills, they do the same thing as SMT4 where if you were to learn a skill that you already have, it just levels up that skill, and it takes away some of the SP cost that that skill has and also increases the damage a bit. But because you don't have like a team of demons that you're just like constantly leveling up, you don't level up those skills quite as fast. So like I'm done with chapter 1, I have like Zeo plus 1. And I don't think that that's going to be upgrading that often. You know, like I think it's going to be more of like an event when that happens other than like the status quo, because the thing with 4 is like if you wanted you could get some cheap demons that had some skills you wanted to like level up, and you could just like boost that out real quick and get like +8 or whatever.
I,
Like
I mean, the thing with Four's difficulty is like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I've said it before on this podcast. SMT4 is one of my favorite games of all time. I love that game.
same,
Um,
I love that game too.
but like in terms of the difficulty, even like towards the end of the game, you get like, okay, here's this boss fight at the end of the game. Let me do debilitate 4 times, luster candy 4 times, attack its weakness, and the boss fight's done.
Yeah, yeah,
And
pretty
you
much.
can't really, at least so far, it seems like you can't do that in Tokyo Mirage Sessions. You gotta actually plan the fight out better than that. So that I'm looking forward to, hoping that difficulty keeps going. And if it's as challenging as it is on normal, I am really looking forward to that hard playthrough.
It's pretty. You know, the only thing well actually, so one thing I want to say while we're on that point with the buff debuff thing, uh, like buffs and debuffs are just as important as like they always have been, but also too I feel like they like you don't get as much mileage out of them. Like they're super important, and like it's just the traditional like oh they last for like 3 turns or so, but like it feels like you don't get as much out of that as like you normally would, but they still help a lot. Like they're not
Yeah.
broken, and like they're still useful, but you can't just rely on it as a safety blanket anymore is I think the big change, and I think that's great. So
Honestly, it kind of feels like buffs no longer give you an edge, they bring you up to par.
yeah, no, I agree with that. Like even I had a point where I was like, okay, I got Rakukaja up, Rakunda on the boss, Terukaja. Oh, I'm playing the game now. Okay,
Yeah.
and then Subasa started dying, and it's like, oh, well now I need to focus on reviving and healing, and I can't have all those buffs up at once. This is bad. And like I said, barely got that one through by the skin of my teeth, and that was such an adrenaline rush. I love it. Like yeah, like and like I've been kind of shitting on some like reviews and stuff on Twitter where it's like, oh, this is a great build up for Persona 5. It's like fuck you, it's a different game. It should be
It's
respected as such.
completely different.
That being said, I really hope that a lot of the gameplay and like combat design stuff they have going on in here, uh, is stuff that they're going to take into future games because I think they figured out a lot of stuff here that's really great, and I would not mind seeing being brought over into other games. Like how buffs and stuff are handled. I would love seeing in like maybe mainline or Persona 5 even. Persona 5 would probably work better.
Yeah, I'd love to see in Persona 5. I kind of want mainline to at least stay with the press turn system and the way buffs work there. Because
Yeah.
I do like stacking my buffs. It's just maybe make the enemies balanced around that at least. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, it's one of those things. And also too, also I hope I don't know if Final fixed this. I fucking hate how in 4, like one of the things with 4 that I'm like, "Oh, okay," is you get to a point where you realize that because how buffs and debuffs work in 4 is it's like you can go up to +3 or -3. Uh, so what you would do is you would take your characters up to +2, and then the enemies up or like down to -2, and excuse me, down to -2, and they would never dekaja or dekunda at that point
Yeah.
because you didn't hit like the cap, and it was super exploitable. And once you figured that out, and it's not too hard because you just kind of notice after a while, oh, if I bring them all the way down, they just undo it. But like if you play around a bit, it's like, oh well, I can just completely fuck them over whenever I want now, and it's not fully, or else they'll heal it. But fuck it, it's good enough. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just really like how buff debuffs are handled. Um, I think they do the three like I don't know. You're not very familiar with Fire Emblem, are you?
No.
Okay. You,
I've played the first like maybe half hour of Awakening and that's it.
okay. So did you catch that the three physical types are references to the weapon triangle?
Yes, that is one of the only things that I did catch.
Yeah, I thought that was cute because it's like there's an enemy in the first dungeon that's like it's like called the Dark Barbarian or whatever, and also some of those enemy names and stuff are like references to like Emblem classes and stuff like that too. And it's like, oh well, he has axes, so if I use my sword, he'll be weak to that, and sure enough, he is, and stuff like that. So that's really cool that they carry that over. But yeah, it's really fun. The only
Um,
difficult or sorry, one real quick. The only thing I have to complain about for hard mode so far is I think they mess with encounter or sorry, escape rates. Um, I've only had it happen twice, but it seems like getting hit by one of those savage enemies is just a insta game over on hard, which kind of sucks. But
hey, it's pretty close to one on normal too. So.
okay. But yeah,
Um,
I haven't successfully escaped from a battle yet, which I don't try often in RPGs, but it's like, man, that escape rate really sucks early game apparently on hard, so
I think there's an item you can get later that guarantees it.
that's good.
That okay. So, hey, all the praises in the world about the battle system. I do have a few complaints about the game. They mostly are just kind of nitpicks that don't really add up to much. Um, so we mentioned the text messaging when we were doing our Nocturne bit.
Yeah.
Um, hey, that dialogue in those text messages, great. Really love it. It's fun. It's funny. Stop texting me.
Yeah. There's a few points where I was in a dungeon and it was just like always remember you can take a break and go back to heal if you want to, and it's like, yeah, fucking know Maiko or whatever her name is.
Literally, like, all right, I'm going down into the next floor to rescue this person. Text message: we need to rescue this person. I know,
Yeah.
I'm literally doing it.
Yeah.
There was a
I
part.
noticed that too.
There was a part where I had to get up and walk away from my game, and I didn't pause it or anything. I just left it running. I came back and had like 12 text messages just
Oh
from
my
all the other
God.
characters going like, "Hey, keep fighting. We're doing good."
Yeah, it's
And
a
then
little much.
there's a part where you're talking to a character in a side quest, and the second you walk away from him, you get a text message from him going, "Where are you? I'm waiting at the place."
Oh, fuck off.
Oh man, they need. Oh, I really wish that they had toned that down a little bit because I don't need all those messages popping up. Because when you're just trying to do Megaton dungeon crawling,
It's
it
super
gets annoying.
distracting. Yeah.
Just hearing, boop, boop, oh, text message, gotta look down.
I also hate how like you can't just pause the game and like well you can pause the game, but like I I play with like the little stylus thing like usually in until I need to touch control, and like I don't like using my fingers on like console touchscreens or whatever. Um so like it's just like, oh, I gotta pull the pen out and then tap the thing again to advance the text. It's like just doing that over and over again got kind of annoying. Um I do like that they do text you notifications for when you can get another Carnage Unity thing. And stuff like that. It's really neat, but also, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that's like, you can do it, big bro. It's like,
Yeah.
leave me
It,
alone.
it is also a little goofy too that like they update you for whenever it's available, even if you've already gotten the update for it.
Yeah.
Meaning, like I ran out of materials. I ran out of like the basic like star materials thing, and then the next time I got one, it was like 10 notifications of here's all the weapons you can make again.
Oh,
It's
jeez.
like, oh, okay, thanks.
Uh,
Also, the
I
game's super anime. Whether you
yeah.
like that or not, it's up to you. It is super anime.
No, I laughed my ass off at two different points. They're both like early on the prologue. So after like, because there are like Fire Emblem heroes that are like your mirages, which they fuse together with the human they're partnered with to enter this thing they call a carnage form, and that's how you fight in the game. You basically become a Power Ranger. It's dumb. I love it. Um, and also like there's just full on Sailor Moon transformations. It's fucking funny. Um, but like there's a point where like because the ones we've been introduced to so far, they started off with like kind of brainwashed and evil, and then the main character connects with them and then saves them. And like there's a point where the main character Itsuki is talking to Crom, who is like his Mirage, and Crom's like, "Oh, I should thank you because with the you brought upon the light to save me from the darkness," and I'm just like, "Fuck off! This is oh, that's oh
Oh, it's
oh
so good.
yeah." Also, too, I really so Subasa, she's pretty much the main character actually. Honestly, Itsuki's just kind of there. He's the everyman, you know. Um, there's a point in the prologue where they're doing a thing where it's like, okay, why do you want to become an idol? And she's like, I was really depressed, and then someone really believed in me. Then I became happy again, and I want to show people that they should be happy and that I want to cheer people up too. And I'm just like, man, I can't believe the answer to getting away from crippling depression is to become a stereotypical anime person. That's amazing. Uh, but yeah, the story. I will say, I think the characters are great. The main story itself is schlock, but it's
Oh yeah.
fun, so I don't mind. But yeah, like if you want something like DDS or Nocturne writing quality, you're not really gonna find it
You
here.
ain't getting that here.
Yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts level schlock, but like I can understand it, so it's better than Kingdom Hearts, but whatever.
I will say one thing real quick too. I know a lot of people initially were like, "Oh man, I love anime, so I would like it if it was anime, but I'm just not sure how I feel about the whole idol thing." Um, I'm not into idols, and I think it's fine. Like, you don't really have to be into idols to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't. I honestly, I give zero fucks about the idol industry or anything. Like, I don't get it really. Which obviously there's a cultural thing there, but like, yeah, I don't like that music. I don't really like. It's not my thing. And
See,
like,
I like the music. I just don't care about
oh
idols.
no, I don't like. I can't stand most Vocaloid songs, most idol songs. I'm just like that's the thing. Like, I don't really hate it, but like, it's not my not
Yeah.
what I generally listen to when I'm cruising down the road. Um, but like, yeah, no, actually, that story kind of hit me in a weird place where a lot of that story so far is talking about expressing yourself and creativity, and to the point where not everyone involved with like they say idol, but like not everyone there is like a singer. Like some people are like actors and like do other stuff like that, and it's really more a game about creative people expressing themselves and finding their inner voice than it is so much about the singing and dancing and stuff. And that to me was kind of the part where I'm like, okay, there's more here than just the surface idol stuff for people that want that. And like this game actually does have some sort of like theme or overall message, which I thought was cute. So,
So what you're saying is that you awaken to your Reaper names Performa.
oh, that's good. Oh, fuck. Oh, that's real good. Um, I'm really upset right now. Holy shit.
Hey.
Um, no. Yeah. Like I don't know. It's really weird as someone who's like puts super stock in like, oh yeah, being creative and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is really cute. This I should make more dumb YouTube videos. Is the overall message I'm getting away from TMS so far.
Yeah.
Um,
It's, generic feel good plot with some legit gameplay.
yeah. Okay, you want to know something real quick that I laughed at last night as like I finished it up?
Okay.
So I want you to imagine that I'm not going to spoil this for people that haven't played it. I want you to imagine you're getting Persona 4 and like you're getting into it for the first time. And then they set up this thing where it's like, "Oh, there's a murder mystery plot and like who's the killer?" And that's like a major thing and you're like, "Okay, that's going to be what the rest of this game is about." Then after like the first chapter, they're like, "Oh, the killer's that guy." Oh, well that's solved. I don't know if you know the plot thread I'm talking about, but they introduce a thing where I'm like, "This is going to be what the whole game is about." And then it's like, "Oh, no, that's just chapter 1." Like, "Oh, oh, well,
Yeah.
that was easy. Okay."
Yeah, no, I totally know what you're talking about.
It's like, wow, I expected that to drag on a lot more.
Yeah, no, that's resolved a lot faster than you think.
Yeah, like, okay. You build that shit up, like, really hard.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Yeah, no, it's fun. Actually, that's real quick. The models are kind of goofy. I got
Yeah,
used to them.
I'm not sold on the whole way they look.
They look goofy and like I kind of love their expressions even though they're like kind of bad, but like
So, how do you feel about the whole way it shifts from like regular cutscene to like in your face visual novel 3D model thing?
I don't like that. It
It
feels really
it feels
weird.
really jarring and weird.
Like I feel like and like this would probably be weirder, but like I feel like they should be like 2D portraits in that mode. Like I don't know, but like it's I don't understand like why those are there. They feel super out of place and like I don't really get it, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, like it's kind of like I really think it was an attempt to emulate that whole visual novel one-on-one thing,
Yeah.
because it's like, hey, get intimate with this character, but man, I'd rather it had just been a cutscene
And like the
instead.
reactions and stuff are super exaggerated and like the like little emotes
Yeah.
and stuff they do and like like sunflowers appear like if it's Animal Crossing or something.
Yeah. Also, just me. I know for a fact a lot of people will disagree actually, but kind of would have preferred if Itsuki was a silent protagonist. He doesn't really have much of a personality, so
I
I'd rather
feel
have been able to put my own in there.
I feel weird because I generally would have agreed with you, but like I kind of had this weird reaction to it where it's like since Mega 10 like we get a lot of silent protags. I thought it was kind of nice to just have one that's like kind of just talking just because it's something different, you know? But yeah, like he could completely.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd go even further than that. I kind of feel like he should just be cut and Tsubasa should be the main character.
I mean, that would be. But then who would be the waifu if we're the waifu?
Yeah, honestly though, that I think that's the main thing, which is like just make a game for girls. Like, I feel like they are attempting to reach this idol, and like it to be fair, in Japan, the idol thing is not so much like a lot of people here seem to think that the idol thing in Japan is like primarily like a girl driven thing, but like there's a fair share of male fans too for that sort of
Oh
thing
yeah.
over there. Oh, more than a fair share, but like I mean, it does have a female appeal to it that undeniably the rest of Megaton. Well, like Persona has a sizable female audience, obviously, but like Mainline and other series tend to be more of like a male-driven or male-oriented thing, I guess I should say. But like, I mean, you had the chance, just like make Subasa the main character and just
I mean,
do
I
it.
definitely would have preferred Tsubasa to be the main character, but if we have to have Itsuki or however you pronounce his name,
I think it's
because
Itsuki.
like maybe I would have been okay with him if he was anything other than generic anime protagonist.
His descriptor in the profile menu is just everyman, and it says so much.
It's like they gave him the same amount of personality as they gave their silent protagonist, so just let me be him then if that's gonna be the case.
To the point too, and I don't know if you've played around with this at all. If you do the second, because the dialogue options happen, and generally the first option is like, oh, the nice heroic thing to say, and the second option is either like, and like kind of it's either the dick option or the nervous or confused option. Like it's either good guy, perfect human being option, or like slightly flawed option every single time. Most of the time, if you pick that second option, he'll say it and then immediately cut to oh but and then he'll say the first option anyways.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
definitely.
it's like they just added a second like text box onto the first like it's literally like they just added a text box in between right before the dialogue choice and the first dialogue choice anyways. It's really weird and forced. um yeah, I think it's the thing where it's like I feel like they did this weird like half and half thing where it may have been better if he had either more personality or if they just made him silent, but they went for this like this weird everyman like he just feels really bland,
He
honestly.
feels like an anime male protagonist in a
Yep,
series that's about having a million waifus.
yep. And also too, in a series where it's like, man, everyone's focusing on being creative, to have a guy that's like, yeah, I don't really get this whole like idol thing, and like I kind of don't want to do it, but I have to because apparently the more creative you are, the stronger you get. So he's basically forced into becoming like an actor slash idol,
So
and he
I don't know
doesn't
about
care.
you. I don't know. First of all, I don't know anything about this game's story. I don't know where it's going. I can see where that's heading a mile away.
Oh, same. He's gonna
It's
be
so
super great at it, and he's gonna love it.
no, not just that. I know what he's going to be in the end.
Oh,
I mean, it's just a guess, but I see it coming a mile away, and I guess I won't say it because I'm so confident that I'm right that it's a spoiler.
okay. I actually don't think I think I lost you actually, but I feel like with some thought I'll know exactly what you're saying, but like right now it's escaping me.
I'll
Um
tell you later if you want.
okay. Yeah. Um yeah, it's a very generic plot, but it's
But
it's
hey,
fun
that
and
gameplay's legit.
yeah. Also it doesn't take itself seriously. It knows what it is and it has fun with it, which I think does leagues in improving that. It's self-aware enough to get it. And like even then, like I have a general rule of thumb with stories for anything. If either your main narrative sucks or your characters suck, at least have the other thing be pretty good, and that'll balance it out. And I think this is a case where it's like the main narrative, but the characters are really good. And to be honest, I've felt that same way about when I played Persona 4, where I'm like, I don't care much about the actual story of this game, but like these are some pretty cool characters, and like that's kind of what got me through that game. And like I think that's a fair way to write a story. Like you can focus on different things and tell a good story with it. So, but yeah. Do you want to move on to the hot button issue?
All right, I guess let's do it.
Okay, can I start this off by saying, in a very mature manner, I guess, before we probably start firing shots. Um, I'm very upset in that the conversation for this game's localization has managed to address so much minute shit that honestly, unless it was a huge controversy, I wouldn't have even noticed, rather than some stuff that's actually kind of eh. And like, that's a very subjective thing, I guess, but like, there's something you referenced that like I think is pretty bad, and I've seen other people complain about. But like, I can't believe that like the fact that like outfits have changed have somehow become more of an issue than hey, the dialogue in battle just doesn't have subtitles and you don't know what they're saying if you don't know Japanese.
That bothered me.
And like that's
That
a problem.
that bothered me in the like initial English trailers, and I didn't say anything because the noise was so loud from the other shit going on.
And like I kind of hate to say it, but like like I, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but like TMS is like just like this thing that's kind of come out as like this is gonna get really depressing, but it's kind of like part of this huge thing of being a little bit disillusioned with some JRPG like player base maturity stuff, I guess, where like there's this huge outcry about this shit that just doesn't matter. And I guess I want to even start earlier than that. The whole reveal of this thing from being, and this is, I think, the main core of what bothers me. The whole thing was revealed, and people were like, "Oh God, fuck this! It's like this really generic anime, like whatever thing." And I was like, "Guys, let's just wait it out. Gameplay's probably going to be great." And lo and behold, here we are. But fuck it, I was right. But no, but even other than that,
I mean, I'll admit before you go a little bit further, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was a bit disappointed at the initial reveal because it wasn't what I wanted. but then I gave it a shot, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't. But what pisses me off even more than that are the people that didn't and also complained about it being this super duper, like, ew, gross idol thing. And then as soon as they started changing the costumes and stuff to be a little less revealing, they're like, wait, what the fuck is this? And it's like, pick one. Like, like, I would think you'd be happy about that, but I guess not. Um, no, and like, it's really a thing where, like, most of those costume changes are just so minute in the actual game that you wouldn't even really notice most of the time, I don't think. Um, but I think, and you've said this, and a few other people have said this. I think the problem, even more so than just like the costume changes, like they can be inconsistent with what got changed, and also like some in some scenes a thing is changed, and then in another scene it's not, and that is, I think, pretty lazy and an actual problem.
Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense when they've got a cutscene where there's random fog over cleavage and then the next scene there's not. It's like why did you put the effort into doing that instead of putting subtitles into the fight, you know?
It's really weird too how like I feel like what like I gathered because it's really weird how like they decided what they wanted to consider appropriate and not, and like I feel like there's some minor inconsistency there, but what I think most of it turned out to be, at least this is my grasp on it having played through what I have, I feel like because Subasa in the original Japanese was like 17, well they aged her up to 18 in this one. um but then they also were like, okay, we don't like that a lot of her idol stuff is like a bit revealing, so they changed that. But then everyone else just seems to have like, I mean, I know there's like one dungeon that like a lot of the context behind it kind of got changed to be a little more tame in the Western version, but like there's other characters that are older than Subasa, and it's just like we don't care if they show cleavage. And it's like, oh, okay. So I think they were really just worried about the reaction to her because she is like, they outwardly say, oh, she's a high school student, and I think they were wanted to play that one very safe, and I think that's where most of those changes came in from.
Yeah, there's a few that don't make sense, but I definitely think that is the overall thing. I mean, hey, I played through that dungeon that they changed a lot of stuff in, and I'll be honest, if it if it had been the original version, it would have felt a little sleazy, you know?
Yeah.
That being said, I just want to put out there that like I don't judge anyone for what they care about. Like, if you care that something got changed and it bothers you, I'm not like, you don't have to feel bad that you cared that that got changed. Just realize the level of reaction
Be
required from
self-aware
people.
of the hill you want to die. I
I
guess.
mean, it's like, hey, if it really bothers, because like, I'll be honest, like, it's easy, and maybe I'm going into off the rails here, but it's easy to see people getting worked up over like, I can't believe they changed this 17-year-old girl's panties, and be like, ah, oh, man, I'm gonna write off everyone that has any complaints about these changes. It's easy to do that, but like, I'm sure there's plenty of people that like on a moral level, like, no, I don't care about these changes, but I just don't like the idea of like censoring things like that. It's like, hey, I that's not me. That's not what I care about, but I'm not gonna write you off because of that. But just like, maybe take a step back and like assert what you really want to focus on and what you want to spend your energy into. Because like, if you're getting into huge fights over this, and if you're gonna not play the game because of it, maybe like, is that really that big of a deal?
And I'd even say like if you're not like if it is so important to you that you're not gonna like you decide like, oh, I was gonna purchase this game but fuck you now, like that's fine. Just don't make an ass of yourself doing that, I guess. Like, God knows I've not bought games because of like stupid shit, like not stuff that became like a big controversy or anything, but it's like, oh, well, like this game doesn't have this mode I usually like. Well, fuck this game, I'm not buying it, even though it might be a good game or whatever. Like, you get to choose what you spend your money on, what you want to support. But I do think to some extent, like, vote with your money then. Like, if it really bothers you that much, like, make a statement by not purchasing the thing, and like maybe if you want to voice your complaints as to why to like people who like are, I don't know, like people that could influence that, do it in a very considerate and respectful way, and like don't harass people over it, you know? Like, and like the very unfortunate reality, this is kind of getting into what we're like talking about earlier, is with how stuff on the internet works nowadays, like you're always going to, no matter what the issue is, you're always going to generally form these two massive sides that generally like will agree on set principles, and then those sides will clash and it just gets messier from there. That's kind of just how the way it's always been, and
I think that's a shame though, honestly.
I think it is, but I feel like as in a post 2014 gaming social media world,
Yeah.
it's inevitable now with stuff. And
But so I don't know. Maybe I'm just going a little too middle of the road with it. But like I feel like in any situation like that, there's got to be people on both sides that have good points at some point.
yeah,
But it's so easy to get caught up in the us versus them mentality that it's like, well, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. And it's like, maybe I should. And honestly, I'm guilty of this. That's why I'm kind of been thinking about it lately. Because, like, man, I have written off a lot of people that maybe if I had listened to them, I would have. I would have maybe at least understood them, if not agreed with them. And I kind of feel like, hey, maybe the other side in this case is also there, where, like, I see some people like, I can't believe anyone would buy this game to support this censored product. And it's like, hey, maybe we just want a fun game, you know?
yeah. Like I think it is a thing too, where and this is part of my thing on it is like it's I think it's very obvious from the way we've been talking which side quote unquote we fall on, but like I think there's kind of been a thing where like I've seen a lot of discussion and stuff where like there are people like, well, I don't really like the changes either. It's just I'm not going to throw a fit over it or like act in the way these people are about it. And like to some extent, like I kind of agree with that. Where there's some stuff where it's like I don't really even really care where this got changed, and like to an extent, like if I was in charge of it, I probably would have just left it alone because like whatever, you know. Um, but like yeah, it's this weird thing where it's like I don't know. Like some stuff, it's like, is it a little bit silly that got changed? Yeah, but it's like how important that is to people has been very divisive, and like
Yeah,
you
everything doesn't need to be the new big controversy.
yeah, and like also to your running into stuff too, where like there's that statement that just came out of someone who like worked on the game, where I think it was a GameSpot article, where they're like, hey, well, there's been a lot of they basically asked a question about localization. It's like how do you feel about your product be or like your artistry or whatever being changed when it's brought over to different places, and the guy was basically saying, well, localization is all about optimization and making a product that's right for that region to make as many people happy with it as possible. And like it's like this weird thing because like you get this whole thing of like, is it really like censorship in a way if like the original creators approve of it and they think it's a good change for that region, like or does that not matter? And would you rather just have it be what the Japanese original creators wanted for Japan? And like it's this big mess of like
I mean, like the ultimately you have to reach at some point where you realize like, hey, and I know this phrase has been thrown out a lot, but like localization is not translation.
yep, big
And
difference there.
the main like, hey, start off small. You have to realize like you can't just translate text. Like every you we as English speaking people will never get that experience that the Japanese got. It
No.
has to be changed. We don't have the context for it and we don't have the language for it.
And if you want a really good experience that's pretty modern and relevant of why that doesn't work, look at that Fire Emblem Fates fan translation patch that like was made because people were mad about the localization. Compared to the actual localization, it's so stiff and boring as a result. It's really bad.
Honestly, I thought as like as like a culture we had already understood this with didn't we go through this with like a Final Fantasy VI patch like years ago?
I think so.
I
Like,
remember like years and years ago there was a like direct translation Final Fantasy VI patch that came out that was like, hey, I hate how changed the Final Fantasy VI translation was, so I'm gonna make a direct translation. And the overall community was like, hey, that's cool, but man, this is really dry and dull.
yeah.
But
I-
like, yeah, taking it a step further, like some creators when they want to bring a game over, they just adapt the script, and some of them say, "Hey, as a cultural thing, I don't think this Japanese thing works in a Western context." And whether you are okay with someone doing that and whether you're not, I guess that's a decision you have to make yourself. But a lot of people would prefer things changed because, like, man, this has been going on since the beginning. Like, games from like Nintendo era changed on the way over here.
Yeah. And like you get into other shit too, where like the very sensitive topic of underage sexualization here versus Japan, there are very different like standards for media and that. Um, and like been a big thing with TMS compared to even other Nintendo games, I'd say. Um, and then one thing I guess I will add too is like I feel like this whole situation. I'm gonna use the word again, emblematic. Has been kind of emblematic of this whole uh I guess this weird like push and pull that like games, and to a lesser extent I think I've seen like comics, and I guess I'd even throw on like tabletop role playing, like just these more nerdy forms of like entertainment that have kind of been slowly in the past decade or two more being brought into the mainstream acceptability like sphere, you know? Um and like sacrifices like this, or I guess it depends on if you consider it a sacrifice or not. But like changes like this and compromises to some extent are going to need to happen if people still want that to be a thing. And like it's really unfortunate, but like you have to realize if you were to handle most people on the street in America like a Vita game, like a Vita JRPG, there's a lot of stuff in there that wasn't changed from like Japan to here that will just turn those people off completely. And like to some extent it's like, well, you shouldn't just change the entire game to make it like this wide appealing thing and alienate the people that would originally want it. But at the same extent too, you should probably make changes if you really care about like spreading out like and becoming accessible. There are some cultural things that just won't fly over here that fly in other places, and that's kind of like a unfortunate reality of all media.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a situation where like I can I know I've said this earlier, but like I can, even if I don't agree, I do see some of the points the other side of this debate want to make, and it's like, yeah, you like, I understand if you say like, well, I don't care about that. I want to play the game it was originally designed as, and it's like, well, if you want that, you have to understand then that like the medium won't evolve.
Yeah,
And we have to choose one way or the other. We can't, have both.
I feel really shitty for saying this, but like I feel like it's an elephant in the room. I'd be really I would love a world where we could have this like localization and like how much should be changed until it's like a completely different thing artistically, in a world where Gamergate didn't just happen like a year ago.
Yeah.
And like it's the unfortunate reality where it's like I can like you said, I can see where people are coming from, and also too, I'm gonna say it. I know some people when like some Fire Emblem stuff was happening and some other like I know some people from like Japan or whatever that are like, in a way I kind of feel like this is some washing of traditional Japanese stuff that maybe isn't great but is very inherently Japanese in favor of like American stuff. And there's like a for some of my Japanese friends that was like, it's kind of a weird racial tension thing. And I never even thought about it that way. If they hadn't have referenced that, I'm like, yeah, I can see why that would be a problem for someone. I could also see like how someone from Japan would look over to something like, oh, what the fuck did our Americans do to, or what the fuck did Americans do to our thing? You know, like there could be some uncomfortable undertones there. But like, I'm really upset that a lot of this conversation hasn't been so much that, and more so, what the fuck, my vagina bones are missing though.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
like,
interesting too that
God,
like, man, it's interesting that this is such a controversy right now because it's like, it's such a controversy now because it's sexualization stuff that is being changed. But I did not see this much and there's a little bit, but not nearly this much of an uproar when the entire plot and protagonist of Nier was changed.
Yeah, that's maybe just because I don't know. Well, I guess I was there as much of like uh I guess since I'm very unfamiliar with Nier, I will say, is there a sexualization thing in there, or is the point you're trying
Oh,
to make that when it is about sex, it's a different opinion than if
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
that
Nier?
that the latter. When it's about sex, when it became about
I do
sex and
agree with that.
sexualization, it became a big deal because basically the only thing with Nier was that in Japan it was kind of like a younger Bishonen male, and then in the Western release it became a gruff old dude.
I do agree with that, and I think it's very bizarre that a lot of the conversation regarding translation stuff has been about sexualization, and like to some extent, like I think that's kind of sad because I feel like a lot of people that want more faithful stuff to the original, or at least like less edited, whatever you want to call it. I guess faithful is probably a good word. Like, I feel like yeah, I'd understand a bit more if this was brought up more frequently in regards to stuff like that where changes were made, and it's not about violence or sex, because like people are like, oh well, they changed the sex and violence stuff because they need to censor it and like make it kid friendly or whatever, but like there is stuff that gets changed in localization all the time that just kind of gets changed. Like I know some Fire Emblem Fates characters, they just change their names for no reason. And
Yeah,
like if those same people that were arguing about like, oh, my vagina bones though, were like, oh, why did this dude's name get changed? And like brought stuff like that up, I'd be like, yeah, I can see, like I could respect that argument more, you know. But a lot of it's just like, no, I want to see anime tits, and it's like, is this like I said before, is this really the hill you want to die on?
yeah,
It's it's weird. Like I I feel like as we I feel like as the video game industry goes on, like there's gonna be more. I think this situation will get better. Like I think if anything, if changes are made, I think the big problem with TMS that I think people on both like sides of this debate have is just there's a lack of at least perceived consistency there that's really weird and kind of picky and choosy. And I feel like if I think everyone would be a little bit happier at least if they did make changes, they were more transparent about why in a way, and
yeah.
also were a bit more consistent with what gets changed and what doesn't. Because as of right now, sometimes it's like, oh, you can't see tits in this frame, and we're gonna fog that out, but right here it's perfectly okay, and it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
why?
whether you're okay with the fact that they made changes or not, I think it's kind of hard to deny that the changes weren't well done.
Yeah, and like it's weird. I guess I should say even like some changes because like there are some things that they did change and it's just like, oh, this is like an outfit and like a CG and like that's consistent. But
Yeah.
like yeah,
Hey,
then
that
there's
new
other
outfit
stuff
that
that isn't.
replaced the bikini, I think, is way better.
Yeah, same. And like yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like that stuff is consistent. Like in my opinion, yeah, that I think a lot of the changes they made to some of the outfits were like, oh, I actually think that looks cooler. Again, that's a subjective thing. Like some people would look at some of those changed outfits and are like, I actually don't think this looks as good or whatever, and like that's totally fine. But I think like when you do have like a thing where it's like we're just going to very inconsistently change this, and like within the same scene sometimes even, it's like that's not great. Like it's not very good. Um, so yeah, hopefully as like we said, as the industry like moves on with stuff like that, it'll get better. It's I feel really bad that this conversation has devolved into the maturity level that it has.
I feel like this conversation had the potential to be a really interesting and like analysis and look at this sort of thing and different opinions on the way culture should be adapted into other cultures, but it can't be that right now, and that's kind of a shame.
I feel like it kind of got co-opted by horny kids, and I think that's a really like I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a shame. Like, man, if you care that much, I'm pretty sure you can Google hentai sites. It's not my thing, but if you're looking for that, they're
They do
probably out there.
exist.
Yeah, I haven't looked for them. I'm fairly certain those exist. So like, just, just back to something else. Like, shouldn't upset you that much. Um, but yeah, like I don't know. It's been stupid, and I hope as the game is out now and like it's a fucking great game. Like all this shit aside, like even what we said about the localization, yeah, sometimes it can't be great, and like, oh, the battle dialogue isn't subbed and that sucks. Like, I'd still say the localization overall is pretty good. I think the way that they handle the characters and their personality quirks and stuff has been really great so far. I really like the writing and stuff.
Yeah, those
Um,
text messages are amazing.
yeah, oh, those text messages are great, even though like even if they're too frequent, like
Yeah, stop texting me,
yeah,
but the texts are great.
yeah, like the characters definitely type differently, and like you can kind of just tell. Like if you were to just remove the low profile picture and just have a text, like you could probably get like a good grasp of who the character was, which is really good. That's a good sign of good writing. Um, and like even just like the lack of internal consistency and stuff like that aside, I don't really think that like those problems for me personally in the grand scheme of this 60-hour RPG is really that big of a thing. I think this is a very small part of the game that has been blown up very large, is what I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would recommend anyone, like, even if it does bother you that they change things, at least give the game a shot. Don't let that deny you a game that you might love, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Uh,
guess, I mean, if it really does bother you that much, like you said, you can choose not to get it. That's perfectly within your right as well.
And also, this is not throw out the possibility. Maybe you do get it, and you do like look at it and you're like, nope, I still don't like these changes, and like that's okay too. It's just don't be a dick about it, and don't threaten
Yeah,
to burn down a treehouse that is not a real thing that exists.
just hey, maybe, and I'm gonna, you know what? If I can never go on the internet again after this, so be it. Maybe, just maybe, video games aren't the most important thing in the world.
Whoa.
Hey, I love them. You know, hey, in some ways, my life maybe revolves around them a little too much, but I don't want to start a revolution about them.
Yeah. No, like I'm just gonna say it too. Like I feel like also too, just have your opinions, and then it's very easy to fall into that group mentality and stuff. But like, just don't feel the need to like tag a bunch of your opinions with like a really stupid hashtag that like I think in many ways is just going to devalue your argument in a lot of people's eyes. And it fuck it, I'm just gonna stop dancing around it. I feel like if these are real concerns for you, and like you actually really don't like these changes, and you want to make like a grown-up like stance on this, don't do hashtag torrential downpour, hashtag gamergate as like a thing. Just like
It makes you look childish.
it makes you look very childish, and at this point so many people, and like even if you're one of those people listening to this right now, which I kind of doubt at this point, but like if you're one of those people listening to this right now, and you're one of those people that are like, oh, but like it's just don't understand, we've been made to look out like we're bad, and I don't know why I'm going to like a Rorschach voice right now, but like if you're one of the people that are like, no, we've been misidentified and misheard and all that, like we're at a point now where so many people have had negative experiences with both like hashtags like that, and like people that, and even if not the hashtag itself, people that identify with that hashtag, you're better off just making a stance as like a thing and just being very respectful and saying, hey, I'm not a fan of this and I wish this wasn't like this,
Yeah.
instead of throwing a fit and getting into like the horde about it and like harassing people.
I mean, hey, conversations are great. Even debates are great. Like, I would love to have a legitimately good argument with someone about this topic, but like, once you start like getting snarky with your hashtags and like you turn into this us versus them, gotta make it a big fight thing. I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that. That's not what I'm into this medium for.
Yeah, and I mean, even like I kind of threw out like a snarky tweet or whatever. Oh, like it was in response to that interview thing where it's like the like I pretty much said like the people that created this game don't give that much of a shit about the changes. Like, what's the point then? And I actually had some good like discussions with people that are like, no, I don't agree with that, and like a lot of them were kind of dicks, not gonna lie, but like there are some people that like it's like I can see where you're coming from with this, and like it's good that we can have an adult conversation about this, and that was really nice to see. But yeah, like it's a shame that there's a significant number of people that have to be like petty or not great about
Mm.
that. But I guess that reflects to some extent the state of the video game culture thing, if you can call it that. I guess I don't know what else to call it. And hopefully that improves as people stop being 16. I don't know.
We're in a weird time. You know, honestly, like I really think maybe a lot of them are older than you might think.
No, I believe that too. Like that's just kind of a dig, but I think there are people that are just have shitty attitudes, which it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, and you would like to think it's just because of youth, but no, there are definitely people that are definitely even older than I that are, you know, not great about stuff, which is unfortunate. But
I really I want to see. You know, I like I said the thing. Maybe video games aren't the most important thing in the world, but they are important to me, and I want to love the community around them. So I would like to see us get through this thing and kind of move forward. You know.
it is a thing too where I do think that a lot of this, and I see it like I'm Zach, you know, I'm not super into comics, but like with this and tabletop, like I said, it's very clear that these things are becoming more accepted and they're not as much of like a niche, like they're still very much niche, well maybe not video games but a lot of other stuff, and like as these things become, as the people that had these as kids and were like made fun of for like enjoying them, and like as they grow up and like this is becoming more of a normal thing for a lot of people like that are at least younger, and as time progresses this will they'll probably be a lot more mainstream than we think. um like I think it'll get better, but to some extent as it gets better there's going to be that knee jerk reaction of I don't like where this is going, and I don't even want to say it's more of a like it's popular now it sucks, but it's like there are going to be those people that just don't like the changes that are made for things to be a little bit more accessible for people that maybe don't fall into the traditional game demographic, I
Yeah.
guess. So
And
that's
you know
a
what?
thing.
Let's be real here. Let's just like cut through all the bullshit. There will always be games for you. They're not going away.
Yeah.
Like, hey, some things will be changed. It's gonna happen, but there are always gonna be the companies that don't want to do that. And like, for every Tokyo Mirage Sessions, there's like a Dungeon Travelers too. You
Or
know?
a Criminal Girls,
Yeah. So like,
or a Senran Kagura, or like those are
there's
out there.
room. There's room for all of it. There's room for trashy games and games that want to be less trashy. So like, maybe don't flip out when a game comes out and isn't as trashy as you want it to be, because like we can all coexist, man.
You know, I'm also going to throw out there, I think, like, in the case of something like Tokyo Mirage Sessions 2 compared to like DOA Extreme 3 Full Boost Extend Eyes of Heaven or whatever the fuck they call that, it's very clear that the sexualized stuff that was in the Japanese version wasn't like there's not much like intent or like that's just kind of like a thing that's like part of the visual style of that game. Like it's not like this major important element, or it's to a biggest extent it may be a selling point for some, but that's not like a big point of the game compared to say like a Dead or Alive or a Senran Kagura or something that's
Yeah.
specifically made to be titillating. It's more of a side element of that original game. Like it's not a big focus point.
Yeah. Tokyo Mirage Sessions was never about bikinis.
Yeah, like there's a Hot Springs DLC thing, but like that's just it's DLC. It's
Yeah.
like yeah. No, I don't have anything more to say really, I guess.
Oh yeah, I just
Don't be a douchebag on the internet. Just
yeah.
I'm a douchebag on the internet. I could probably be better about some things, but like man, ooh, there's everyone just take some deep breaths and be nice to each other.
This conversation came at kind of a weird time for me because like I I, I was super like when this whole like hey let's when this whole Gamergate thing started, I was super hard on like the man, fuck those guys, fuck everything about that, fuck everyone that agrees with anything they say, and I've kind of recently been like, man, you know what? Maybe I was also kind of a dick, you know? Maybe I judged people too quickly just because they had some opinions, and I'm trying to be better about that, but like it's hard to when there's so much surrounding it that's just so ridiculous and so extreme and overreacting and
And also too, when I click on one of their profiles and also say "fuck yeah, ban all Muslims, Trump 2016," and that's like a frequent thing that happens a lot.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I just can't. Like
Well, I
it's
think at this point, and again, hey, you know what? I'm not afraid of fucking. No one gives a shit about who I am.
yeah,
I'm not afraid of like anything like that. So I'll say I think at this point, like you said, those hashtags are kind of even if you think that you want to identify with them, the well has been poisoned there.
yeah.
You'll be better served speaking on your own as like an individual saying, "Hey, these are my thoughts and if you want to debate me, let's debate." You know? That's a way better way of going about it than fucking like kill Nintendo.
Yeah, and like, goddamn social justice warrior Illuminati. Only
Oh
reason
god.
that the game's gotten good review scores is because there's a conspiracy and everything's been censored.
Hey, if you think that, then I got nothing for you.
Yeah,
Go have fun.
yeah, like, no, it's sad, and I do legitimately feel for people that like, you know, there's someone out there maybe that like has seen something shitty in the world. Like, God knows I don't fully like everything that game journalists do sometimes, and I know game journalists that don't fully like where game journalism is sometimes, but like there's a way to constructively go about changing things in a way that you would like, and I think at this point it's very clear a lot of the hashtags and like movements that we've kind of been shitting on are not very invested in doing that so much as they are just kind of being shits,
Yeah, no. I mean,
which is
yeah, no.
sad, but like, and like if you're one of those people that are like, you know, in that situation, it's like maybe get to a point where like be the change you want to be, you know, like don't just reform, kind of take a deep breath and be mature about things. I don't know.
Yeah, no one's gonna take a screaming child seriously. Is kind of the
Yeah,
bottom line.
yeah, it's it's the thing. Like I don't know. I feel so I hate that entire situation just because like I feel like that whole like movement and that ilk like set it to some extent video games like opinion like I don't know. I guess I will say like I know like various people in academia have said before that the whole like Gamergate situation thing has actually like negatively impacted how that medium is held as like a thing people take seriously like critically and like
It's kind of embarrassing, isn't it?
yeah and like man was it really worth it, you know, like I feel like it did so much more harm than good, and like there's no denying the thing that it turned into is pretty gross. Like just move on with your life and do something else, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. Um
I mean, also like there, a there was sexism tied into that whole thing from day one. I don't think that ever had a chance
yeah.
of shaking that. So
Yeah.
let's, you know, hey,
You know, also too, I do want to make this point because I think this is very valid. If you're one of those people that we're talking about where it's like you feel like you have legitimate points and like you don't feel like you're a shitty person, be the person who also when someone that is like with you but is also just so happens to be sexist or racist, be the person that calls that person out. Be like, okay, if we want to be taken seriously, you can't be like, oh, kill all Muslims. Like, you're not gonna get anywhere aligning yourself with people with worldviews like that, and like you're never going to be taken seriously. And like, I hate, I don't know. I feel weird saying this, but like, I feel like video games just kind of as a thing, and like as kind of a creative industry, there's like a lot of the main institution of it right now, like tends to be more liberal leaning and forward thinking than that. And just if they see like racist or sexist shit like on your timeline or like that you associate yourself with people that are kind of that ilk, you're not going to be taken seriously, even if maybe some of the points you have are fair or valid. Like, call that shit out and just be like, hey, if we actually care about excuse me, if we actually care about this, maybe we need to clean ourselves up and maybe be a bit more professional about this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we if we're gonna move forward, it has to. I don't know. Like, I feel like we've kind of said all we can say on the subject, but
Yeah.
like, I want to see video games be taken more seriously. I want to see the medium move forward, but at the same time, I don't know. It's difficult, you know, because there's only so much we can say when.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like I feel like we've said basically don't be anything that's like a hyphen ist, don't be that. And like if you feel like just be respectful, make fair points, don't be a dick, just don't harass people, don't like
I mean, like,
you'll
we're
be
at the point
taken
where
more
like
seriously.
if you're I have to imagine no one's listening to this that's like this, but if you're someone that actually is like harassing someone and being like a sexist douchebag and you think you're justified, you need to reevaluate some shit, man.
Also stop listening to our show, but
Yeah.
um like yeah, like I don't know, it's blown on to it's gone on to such a point where it's like I think this whole like divide thing is here to stay, and it's to be honest, to an extent I feel like it's always been there, just never had a name. Like you've always had your 4chan and your Reddit and like your Tumblr and like Twitter and like all these different communities and these sub communities within those communities that have like had various different ideological views and standpoints and standards and stuff like that. And they certainly this never had like a name, but then 2014 happened and like there's kind of this it kind of the boundaries were made clear then, I guess, for
I
the
just
average
think that's such
person.
a shame, though.
Like at the end of the day too, like this it's really silly that we're having this in depth of a conversation about like people being mad about video games, aren't we? Like
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like I said earlier, it's not the most important thing in the world. It is, like, hey, it's a big part of people's lives. It's a big part of my life, but like, I I don't know. I feel like there's something. I feel like at the end of the day, this discussion isn't actually about video games.
no, I yeah, like I mean I saw it just today where I'm gonna give a shout out to a channel I really like. It's more of a comic and superhero oriented thing, but they talk about some fantasy and just like general like geeky stuff that I really appreciate. Um, is this channel called Geekvolution. I think I may have even referenced them before, and it's just like a 7 to 9 person team or so that like they just will talk about superhero stuff or like comic stuff and stuff that they've been reading, TV shows they've been following, sometimes video games. Like they're admittedly not super into video games or anything, but they talk about them sometimes, and it's just like a very like neat little review show that's kind of taken off in popularity a little bit since like I started watching them a couple years back, and with like the boom of superhero stuff recently, they've been getting more and more popular each day. And the person who like leads that channel just recently put out a video like, hey, um, people have been really like awful in the comment section, and I mean like let's be honest, like it's YouTube, that's bound to happen no matter what. But like I could see where he's coming from, and it's like yeah, that's it's really crappy. And then I scroll down to the comments, and immediately, like, the first two I see were, like, being like, man, I hate this political correct SJW safe space bullshit. And it's like, he wasn't even saying that. Like, you're just throwing that on there. Like, like, and also, too, like, there's a comment about, like, oh, I can't stand this evil communist. And it's like, where are you getting this from? Like, I'm
Yeah.
so confused. Like, yeah, like to an extent, it's very obvious that it is an ideological and like political thing that has also impacted video games more so than just being a video game exclusive discussion. But I do think for the medium as a whole, it would be maybe a bit better if I don't want to say take the politics and ideological stuff out of that because I do think that's important because like it obviously has a lot of people have different views on that, but I do think too that if everyone kind of like was self-aware, like, hey, what will this mean for the overall thing that we all enjoy, and is this going to be better or detrimental for everyone in the long run? I think we'd be maybe a bit like better off than we currently are now with online discussions, but also at the same time, that's asking people on the internet to be mature, which will never happen. So
Right.
this entire long conversation has been for nothing. We're all gonna die because he death of the universe.
Oh,
Good night,
I
everyone.
guess.
No, um,
I mean, okay, I just like real quick. The last thing is like we've talked, we've gone on about like a couple of different mini topics in this thing, but like at the end of the day, what I want for video games is for it to be more inclusive,
same.
and a lot of people when they hear the word inclusive, they react so strongly to like, oh, that means the thing I like is going to be gone. No, it means the thing that you like will be there, but that also the thing someone else will like that wasn't there before can also be there. And there will be compromises made on both sides in that. And people like, hey, I get you. I was picked on when I was a kid because I played video games. People thought I was a nerd
I'm
loser.
sure everyone like I guarantee almost 100% of the people listening to this like probably in the same boat to some extent or
Yeah.
another.
And it's like when I think about that, my reaction is not to then want to make other people feel that way.
Yeah.
I can't stand it when someone that is clearly bitter about the fact that they were made fun of for liking video games and now see someone that they don't think is worthy of video games liking them and wanting to have their views appealed to in video games, then make that person feel the same way they were made to feel when they were younger. It's like, don't you kind of see what
Yeah.
you're doing?
Yeah, like it's weird. Like and I do think like that's the end all be all in the day is like pick and choose your battles, pick and choose what you really care about. Like for like you said, if we really want true inclusivity in games and for this to like grow and like excuse me, and let's be honest, there's a lot of people that actually don't want that, but it's in the long run it's better for everyone for that just because like I mean, come on, like why not? You know, like why not share this thing you
Yeah.
enjoy with everyone else? I think that's the main thing at the end of the day. And like if you truly want that and like I think we should, but you may disagree, but whatever. Like if you truly want that, like you're gonna have to make compromises in some form or another, and I think that's kind of just how I think it's like a little bit like maturing in real life. There's some things that maybe about the adult world you don't agree with, but like gotta just kind of move past it and accept it, you know?
Yeah.
um, and that's just kind of how life works. But yeah, you know, it's less serious than Gamergate.
What?
Emails.
Oh boy.
let's let's move on from that. That was a good conversation. I don't think either of us expected to have that going into
No.
this. That was
No.
really good. I'm really proud of that. I think that's like actually the highlight of me having this podcast so far.
Hey,
That's pretty
I,
good.
yeah. That was pretty good. Maybe I could have been, if I was a little bit more prepared to have it. I could have maybe
Oh, that was totally off the cuff. Yeah, I wasn't.
yeah, I could have maybe worded myself a bit better at the beginning, but I feel like we got there in the end.
Yeah, I think we did it.
We did the thing.
Let's just have this be our final episode. Fuck it, we're done. We're
Yeah,
ending on a high note.
it's the end.
This is over. Yeah. So now that we had a really good conversation and then proceeded to pat ourselves on the back like assholes, let's go on to emails. Um. All right. So this one. Let's. I have not read any of these. This one's from Mr. Ramos. And he wrote this in a really tiny font. Don't do that.
No, do it more.
Fuck you. What is it about the Dark Souls series that makes those who play the games bring them up whenever possible in conversations? Hmm.
This is actually, you know what? It would be so easy for me to go, oh, it's just really good, but no, this is a thing, you know?
It is, and like to some extent, I do want to say because like you said, oh, it's really good, and I think if you look at the big hitters in games like Ocarina of Time, Final Fantasy VII, I say those two in particular, and that's because when I was a child and got into games, those were like the big ones everyone talked about on the net. You know, like those two are always going to be like when I think of oh games that big games that everyone compares other games too. Like when I was a child, that was like the first two games I had that experience with because that's when I got into gaming, like mid '90s stuff like that. Um, but yeah, like Skyrim is another one that comes to mind. With every open world game gets compared to Skyrim. You have the famous Far Cry thing, like, oh yeah, it's Skyrim with guns or whatever, and like every platformer is probably compared to Mario by now. Like that's or Mega Man. That's another big one. But yeah, like Dark Souls has seemed to have this effect like times 10. It's really weird.
I
I want to say it's because in a way when Dark Souls, well, Demon Souls, but like people, Demon Souls made a splash, but not as big of a splash as Dark Souls did. Mostly probably due to the fact that it's a bit more of a polished game and also multi-platform. Um, I think it's just honestly because of like how well designed it is and how in a way it's really weird because they take a lot of traditional action RPG stuff in that game, but there's a lot of new stuff in there. Like that online system at the time, there was nothing else like that. Um you I mean you I guess you could say you had a lot of dark fantasy stuff at the time, but nothing that kind of handled the story in terms of like the lore like that did that was mainstream. Like there's just a lot of stuff in there that people I don't think experienced with games before. And now that other things are some things are influenced by Dark Souls and other things it's just oh this reminds me of Dark Souls so it's like Dark Souls but like I think for a lot of people there's a lot of experiences within the Souls games and it's their first time ever experiencing something like that in a video game so that's the one they latched onto and is now the default comparison point whether or not people like it.
Yeah, I also think too. Beyond that, uh, a lot of people when they played Dark Souls would say something like, "Oh, this is what I've been waiting for."
Yeah.
A lot of people felt like this is the game that is their game. You know, a lot of people will be like, "Hey, my game is Ocarina of Time. That's I always go back to it. I always play it. That game is perfect for me." A lot of people felt the way about Dark Souls. So I think when a game is so clearly like that's my game, that's my favorite thing, it's always going to be brought up more than others.
Mhm. Yeah, that's also it says to play Persona 2 and then something in really small text that I'm not going to bother magnifying and watch Diamond is Unbreakable. Well,
Hey, I watched Diamond is Unbreakable and I'm going to play Persona 2 eventually, so
I
I'll
will
take your
also
advice.
continue my Persona 2 playthrough, not recorded, but like on my tablet. Oh, I have a tablet, which is really nice. I think I talked about that last time. I can
I think you
emulate.
did.
Yeah, I think I did. I really like that tablet. I can emulate PSP games on it at full speed. It's really neat. Um, but yeah, I'll do that eventually. Now that I have that, and I read Diamond is Unbreakable, so I'll watch the good parts.
I'm watching it because I'm an anime only noob
Yeah,
for now. We'll see.
it's okay.
But for now.
It's probably better that way. Um, thanks, Mr. Ramos, Rhombus.
We got low energy.
Yeah, well, it's because we had the one conversation that solved all problems.
Yeah, I think video games are saved. Like I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think we
good.
did it.
I like the
It's
episode
really
isn't even
weird.
out yet, and I think it's already happened.
I think we might as well just title it "We Saved Video Games,"
Yeah, we did.
just like the Grinch saved Christmas.
Yeah,
I mean,
how WAF saved video games.
yeah, I mean, the Grinch is kind of a shit because like he ruined Christmas before he saved it, so like it was kind of a problem that didn't exist that he made. So I think it's more like how the Grinch redeemed himself from an eternity of hell. But I don't know. That's just my controversial game theory. I'm gonna wash my mouth out with soap now that I said that.
That was quite amazing.
All of the good content that could possibly be used in this podcast was used up in our last conversation. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's from John. Uh, any games you had trouble getting into your first time that you really enjoyed on a later try? Didn't we just talk about this before we started recording?
We did.
Holy shit, that's weird. Okay, well, anyways, he's saying the subject says all of the question. If you just want to read that. This was on my mind with the System Shock Remaster Kickstarter going on, and my first time I couldn't bear through System Shock 1. I got to the reactor level before giving up, then after playing System Shock 2 and loving it, I went back and gave System Shock 1 another try with a fresh mindset, and I really enjoyed it. I was even better the next time I played through it a few months ago too, but that isn't related to the question. Or sorry, it was even better, not he was even better. He didn't become better at the game, though I'm sure he did, but that wasn't part of the original email. Um, has this ever happened to you guys? And I have to ask, what changed? Also, are there any games you didn't enjoy in the past that you think you might be able to turn around on if you were to try again either right now or sometime in the future? Um, I'm trying. I know there are. Like I know there are games that just I didn't get, and like later on I did. Um, I tend to remember the games more where like I got it and then like I can't like I played a lot of games as a kid or whatever and then like I was just too young to really fully appreciate like that's part of the reason I think Majora's Mask is a very special game to me is I played that game as a dumb child when it came out and then I played that game again later as like kind of an angsty teen and like that game played very differently for me and I appreciated what it did a lot more at that time and having recently replayed the 3DS version as an adult who's not a little shit anymore like yeah like I really appreciate what that game does even still and like every time I play that game in a different period of my life I appreciate it a bit more and more but even when I was a child I appreciated it so I don't know I'm gonna do the WAF classic and turn on my light so I can see all my video games real quick.
While you do that, I'll go ahead with mine.
Okay.
So quick little mini story time. Gonna talk about the Soul series again.
Oh. Oh god, oh no, we're doing it.
We're doing can't escape it.
Well, the first time I watched Daredevil, I got halfway through and got kind of bored. And no, I'm joking, but carry on.
So when Demon Souls came out, I actually just bought it because me and a friend were looking for games to play together. So I kind of bought Demon Souls as like a co-op thing with my friend. I didn't really know much about it at the time. So we played through that game co-op and it was like, yeah, this was fine, kind of annoying, but okay. And then Dark Souls came out and he was like, "Hey, let's do it again." So we started again and it didn't really work out. It kind of fell apart halfway through and then it reached a point where it was just like, let's just play these games solo. Um, so I actually took like a year to go back to it even, and then I went back and played through Dark Souls and Demon Souls again, and that's when it clicked for me. So like, there's kind of maybe not really what you were looking for in an answer because there was a specific reason in the fact that I was playing them co-op at first that I didn't really enjoyed it, but not that much. And then when I played through it solo, it really clicked for me. The other question of a game that I think I would like more now than when I first played it. Not 100% sure, but I really want to give Final Fantasy 12 another shot because when I played it, that game did not click with me at all. I didn't like it, and I never got all the way through it. And when I look back on it, I feel like I could appreciate it more now. So I'm gonna give that game another shot at some point.
I liked 12 when it came out. I think that is a game that is 12 is really weird as a game. I think everyone agrees the story's pretty solid. Other than like everyone knows, Vaughn was like a forced protagonist, and that kind of makes the story a little. It's kind of a damper on the story, unfortunately. But you know,
Yeah.
the rest of it's really well written. But yeah, that gameplay is weird. I really can't wait for that HD version that's coming out because it's the Zodiac International
Oh, I
Job
forgot
thing.
about that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I'll play it when that comes out.
2017, I think. Pretty
All
sure.
right. Yeah, yeah. I really. Hey, I'll give an update when it comes out, but I think that game will click with me this time.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I haven't played that game in like a while, but like I mean I played it a long time ago and like I liked it when it came out. I'm not a fan of like the kind of MMOE combat. But like the writing was so good that like I didn't really mind. And from what I've heard for all intents and purposes that like the international Zodiac job thing, the Ted Cruz version, um made that game play a lot better. And also they added like a fast forward button, which in the HD version you can now configure how fast the fast forward button moves,
Oh,
which,
nice.
which is pretty neat. Um, yeah, I'm looking through my game shelf right now for games that like I just didn't get when I first tried, and like I don't know, I'm not seeing anything. I know there are though. Like I've definitely played games and just like went back to them later and I appreciated them more. But just like looking right now, I don't see any that like I can't remember. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. Games that like I could go back to and probably appreciate more. Hmm. I feel like I have some that I just can't. Once again, I just can't think of. But it is interesting that like you referenced FF12 because like I've seen like a recent trend in like a few years where a lot of people have been going back to 8 in particular and saying, yeah, I like that game more or whatever. And like that game is often people say like, oh, that's the one I didn't like or whatever. Um,
Hey, I loved that game from day one. I don't care what anyone says.
I like I think 8 is like for me it's like okay. I used to not like that game a lot more and then like some other Final Fantasy games that we also disagreed on the quality of came out. And I was like, "Oh, okay, it's fine." Or 8 is okay or 8 is fine. I fucked up that sentence super hard, sorry.
It's
Um
fine. We'll get it right in our Final Fantasy episode whenever that happens.
oh yeah. We're just building up to that. The tension is real. No,
Oh,
like it's a thing, and like Antinomi, who we've had on the show before, is like I think his stance on it is like, oh, he likes 8 until like the second disc happens, and from on it gets kind of weird. Um, I kind of agree. I don't know. I feel weird about 8 because part of my stance on 8 is like I feel like I like all the characters in that game that aren't Renoa and Squall, and like I don't.
that's a problem.
Yeah, and like I like the supporting cast. I just Renoa's fine, I guess, but like I never really cared for her. And like Squall in the localization, like everyone's kind of in like it's very infamous that like the way he's been treated in the localization of that game is like they kind of made him a bit more angsty and emo. And I guess I never really liked him uh as that. I don't know how else to put it. Also like my lamp just like died and I'm kind of upset.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's dark. I'm trapped in the darkness, and I don't have any light. Itsuki saved me.
No one's gonna refer to you in the past tense.
Nope. Hey, someone. Oh, there we go. Let there be light.
Uh,
I did it.
you're
Listen
woken
to.
to a new performer.
We are finally electrocuted live on air. No, I
Oh,
did.
fuck. What the fuck happened in this episode?
Oh no. We're, we're just talking at this point. This is
Hey,
great. This is.
if you wanted to ever see the highs and lows,
Yeah. Also, too, if you want to email us, email to wearefinallyemail@gmail.com. I should stop forgetting that part. I've been forgetting often. That's not
oh,
good.
yeah, do it.
Yeah, but I referenced it now for all 3 people that are still listening to this.
Hey, if you are, you're a trooper.
Yeah.
Are there any more emails?
Yeah, there are. Fuck yeah, there are. There are 4 more.
Yeah, let's get high energy again.
Woo! Okay, thank you, John, for your email. That was a pretty good one. Um. Oh, I just realized who this one is. Oh, okay. Well, that I'm stupid. I should have just called you by your other name, but oh well. Um,
Oh,
yeah. Um, this is from Matt, who we had on when we shat all over the Star Wars prequels. That episode. Um, where would you rank Tokyo Mirage Sessions? I can't say that word. Tokyo Mirage Sessions. There we go. In terms of your enjoyment with other Megaton games, and where do you think it belongs on the Zelda timeline?
oof.
Hmm.
Okay. Do you want to go or?
Yeah, I think it's gonna take place right after Skyward Sword, like 2 years, give or take,
Okay, okay.
but before Link's Awakening, which takes place 3 years after Skyward Sword, as confirmed by the Hyrule Historia.
Okay, so like I disagree with you. I think that's fucking stupid actually. I think it's pretty clear that Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a retelling of the same legend that was told in all the other games.
Yeah, I mean
And it's there's no timeline. Just get over it.
it's all bullshit. Like,
It's all bullshit. If it does have to fit anywhere, it's pretty clear that it's a sequel to Wind Waker.
yeah,
Fuck's
after
sake.
they rebooted it and they made Dante into this like emo little fuckboy, I think they've kind of shed all over the canon and it's just ruined at this point. It's just ruined.
Anyone who took the Tokyo Mirage Sessions timeline seriously to begin with is come on.
Yeah, I for one am a fan of the fan chart going around that is just a bunch of diagonal lines that all coalesce into a giant circle where turn A Gundam happens.
Oh man.
If you're listening to this and you understood everything we just said, bless your little heart. You get the sticker for the day. Fictional timelines are stupid. I
I
love
love
them.
them.
I love them so much.
Fictional timelines is one of my favorite things.
It's almost like my most popular video is me being a little obsessive shit about a timeline that doesn't matter, that I still get
Hey,
annoying YouTube comments about and people DMing me on Twitter.
aw.
Yeah, I the amount of people that want to add me on Skype so that they can talk about their Persona 1 playthrough is astronomical. It's I appreciate it, but also like, dude, I don't know what to say. Like thanks for the offer, but like 3 years ago, and we'll beyond it
Yeah,
at
it was
this
part
point.
5 though. So anyway,
All right, yeah. No,
uh,
Tokyo Mirage Sessions ranking. I'm just gonna start calling it TMS because I want to throw in an H in there.
yeah,
Sessions.
well, you know what? I'm gonna call it Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE for the full
Oh, there we
title.
go.
Um, what?
I said, oh, there we go, but no,
Oh,
just carry on.
okay. Okay. Hey, edits.
Yeah.
um, okay, so I'll go ahead and take this first then. With the caveat, fuck words.
Damn.
With the
Fuck words.
acknowledgement that I'm only at chapter 3.
We're just skullface now.
I'm only at chapter 3, so I'm not finished with it, so I can't give my full opinion yet. As of right now, I mean, I don't like it as much as any of the main lines. Sorry for ruining the Nocturne bit earlier. I don't like it as much as Nocturne.
Oh, I don't either, but
Um,
I just like making angry people that actually care really angry for things they shouldn't be angry about.
yeah. So for me personally, my taste, it doesn't reach anywhere near mainline. As far as the spin-offs go, between Devil Survivor and Persona.
I opened up Mega10rankings.txt.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh boy.
so, uh, I've had this file for many years. So I think at this point, Devil Survivor 2 and DDS 1 are kind of tied for my favorite for different reasons, but like, I still consider Devil Survivor 2 probably my favorite just because like I don't know. I think if I had to choose between DDS One and Devil Survivor Two, I think I like Devil Survivor Two slightly more. So Devil Survivor Two, DDS One, DDS Two, Nocturne, SMT One, SMT Four, Persona Three. That's kind of like my ranking. And that's not in terms of like objective game quality. That's just like here are my personal like connection, which is why SMT One is really high up there because I like that game a lot. On that list so far, and keep in mind also too, I'm just barely a ways into chapter 2. um if it remains this quality, I'd say probably mm, I'd say probably below Persona 3 but higher than Persona 4. So like pretty up there, but like at the same time I like it better than the older stuff, but like in terms of all like the like current stuff, it's just if the story itself was a little bit better, I think it'd go even further up from there. But like it's good, and like I enjoyed a lot, and I think it's like a solid 9 out of 10. But just I think a lot of Mega 10 is a solid 9 out of 10, and just there's some other stuff like I prefer. And like I could point to every single one of those games and be like there are things in here just thematically that like as much as I'm like, oh, I really like the whole discussion of creativity that they have in TMS, I can point to what Nocturne says about cycles and like the world and humanity, and I like those themes more. I can point to Persona 3 and like how they talk about death in a super interesting way, and like that's kind of just more of like a personal preference thing of mine. SMT1 I just find as a fascinating as a video game that came out in 92. And like just stuff like that. So but like it's I honestly though I if someone if someone straight up just told me like I think TMS is my favorite, if not like top 3, or like I could see someone being like, oh, I like it more than Nocturne or DDS, and I think that would be a completely valid thing. Just like
I wouldn't agree, but I would. understand.
Yeah, like yeah, like I don't agree with it either, but like I think that's a completely valid like I could see someone making a case for like, yeah, I just enjoy this a lot more. Especially too, like maybe you like Megaton gameplay, but you're not so much a fan of like the darker or more serious
Yeah.
stories that the other ones have.
Oh yeah, you know what? If you love Megaton gameplay and you've always wanted one about idols and pop and happy, good feelings, man, if you had a game,
Man, I feel really bad Amanda doesn't have a Wii U because like she kinda is in that boat where like she doesn't really care for Persona 3 and 4, but like I don't know if she like super cares a lot about like the darker storylines of like the Megaton stuff, but like TMS would be perfect, but no Wii U, so
well, I guess you just gotta buy her one.
no, fuck you. No. It's not happening. It's not happening. I hope she's not listening
Hey,
to this.
so I don't think anyone's listening to this at this point.
No. Not even her.
Um, yeah, I mean, if we're getting into like specific games, probably Nocturne, SMT4, maybe SMT2, uh, Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, Devil Survivor, Persona 3, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I'd have to think about it more, but like that's kind of the general flow.
Oh,
SMT1 is in there somewhere. I like that game a lot, but not as much as you.
yeah. Well, no one likes SMT1 as much as I do.
I think I'm not done with SMT2, but I think I like SMT2 more than one. So
I I think everyone does. Like
I mean, there's a
most
lot of
people.
little things about SMT2 that get on my nerves, but I think overall, man, that game is real good.
I'm pretty content with being the Devil Survivor 2 and SMT1 guy.
That's fine.
Someone needs to
I'll
rep
be the
those.
SMT2 and Devil Survivor 1 guy.
There we go.
Hey.
Devil Survivor 1's poo and SMT2 is pooer.
Oh no.
Oh,
I'm gonna hate you now because of your opinions on video
oh,
games.
fuck you. Trump 2016.
How could this have happened? I'm so tired.
Video games are stupid. All right.
This episode, man.
No, this is a great hashtag content we're making for
Oh, hashtag content.
for the people of the world.
That's another potential name.
If you're listening to this, I'm really sorry.
I love you.
Yeah.
If you're listening, thanks.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're trying. Okay, this is from Dr. Stein. Thanks for the email, other person. Matt. Yep, Matt. I shouldn't call you other.
Other
I
person.
should. I love how the one person I frequently talk to on Skype and Twitter on a regular basis, I'm just like, yeah, fuck you, other person, you know?
He's just really enjoying
Yeah.
the tag dilemma right now.
Yep. Oh yeah, that came out. I played 999. That was the thing. So yeah,
Okay.
just wanted to reference that. This is from Dr. Stein. Hey guys, I love the podcast, and I also love the COS podcast. And Razin, I know you're done the Megaton fandom. I have done the Megaton fandom. It was kind of a one night stand situation. It's pretty
Whole
awkward.
fandom.
Yeah, the whole thing got pretty messy. But I endured. Anyways, but since the podcast is about video games in general, I might as well ask this. Anyway, would you like if the white from SMT4 became a mainstay in main SMT series and took the form of the people the protagonist knew in the game? I personally would like they stayed. P.S. Sorry if my grammar or spelling is trash.
Well, now don't we feel like pieces of shit?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't really care. Like, you're like really
I mean,
dismissive.
okay, so the question was directed towards you, but I'll answer it as well. Um, I think that's a pretty neat idea. Part of me kind of feels like it'd be cool if they just stayed an SMT4 thing. Uh, but I do kind of like the idea of if they show up, they take the appearance of people the protagonist knew.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing for me where I would be slightly afraid of if they show up in SMT5 where it's like, okay, maybe this feels a little bit forced because like they were such an integral part of 4 that like them being a mainstay would maybe feel a little awkward at first until we get used to it. But at the same time too, like I mean if they showed up, like I thought they were a neat idea. I think it's a good way to show that neutral can be just as extreme as Law and Chaos can, and that can
Yeah,
also be just as bad.
I-
Um,
I'll say this: if they do show up again in SMT5, I'd want it to be fleshed out to an actual ending.
Yeah, like let's not forget that the original idea of neutrality in SMT1 and SMT2 is that well, you killed everything and things are better now, but you killed everything. Like that's kind of what those two endings are trying to get at, and that got lost as the series went on a little bit. And I think the white are a nice little comeback of that in a way. Just a little bit more upfront and maybe not as subtle. But like the whole omnicidal like kill 'em all 1989 world is a fuck thing really works as like a narrative device for showing that hey, there's some bad stuff to neutral too. That yeah, I wouldn't mind if they showed up more. But also too like if they didn't show up ever again, I'd be I want to kill. I don't like now that like I think about it, I don't even know if they're like a thing in SMT4 final, but like that might be neat because we just have a lot of factions at this point in that universe. So who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe they're around, but yeah, that's that. And thanks, Dr. Stein.
Thank you.
This is from Saul or Sal. I think it's Saul. But uh, hi Rosin. Do you like using strategy guides? I'm torn because I want the best endings, the full stories, but using them makes me feel like I am missing the surprises that the story offers. Um, depends on the game. Sometimes like I don't really give a shit. Like I used a spoiler-free walkthrough for like a lot of 999 just because I probably wouldn't have cared enough to beat that game otherwise. And get the true ending at least. But like I'm not against it on principle, but like I will always like default try without just because not gonna lie, like it's kind of annoying to like look back and forth from like one screen to back to the game and be like, oh, am I doing the thing right? So
Yeah. Personally, I don't like using them at all. Uh, I kind of want to get the experience. So the way I view strategy guides is like, hey, your game should be beatable without one. Like, if I feel like I'm at a point where I'd enjoy your game more with a strategy guide, or I won't continue it with this without a strategy guide, then you kind of fucked up, and maybe I should play something else.
I agree with that to an extent.
That being said, there are games where it's like, hey, I've been stuck for hours and I do enjoy this game, but this one bit sucks. At that point, I'll probably look it up. But I don't ever want to play through a game with a guide by my side because that's just not really fun for me.
And I feel like too, like I really hate how like hint systems have, and this is partially because of Nintendo, have become this hated thing. Because I think in a lot of games, like it is very possible to have like a hint system that after you get to a point where it's like, man, fuck it, I'm just gonna use a guide to be like, hey, here's a push in the right direction, and like a really well timed hint can be super helpful and add a lot to the experience. But just a lot of games don't do it right. Like they either code it on too thick and treat you like you're an idiot, or like there's just none at all and like you're kind of screwed on your own. um but yeah, I think in general like guides are nice if you really feel like you need one, but I feel like I don't know, it's weird with games too because it's like you don't need like a guide for like a book or a movie or like things like that.
Well, I mean, depending on the movie, some of them.
Yeah. um like yeah, it's really one of those things where it's a very unique problem kind of. But I think in general, stances like, hey, try it without. If maybe you need to just say fuck it and go on game FAQs for a thing, then whatever, who cares?
And I mean, as far as getting like the best ending your first time through, I mean, I kind of feel like personally, I would rather get my ending. Like, and if that's not the best ending, then so be it. And if the game is good enough, then I'll play it a second time and get the best ending. You
See,
know?
uh, I'm very non-caring about spoilers. I think most people know by now. I will actually generally, if I see a game has multiple endings, I'll do my best to not like super duper just spoil everything, but like I'll generally just look for how to get the true ending right away if I can. Unless it is a thing where like going in blind is supposed to be a significant part, because I do feel like this is actually a complaint I have with games with multiple endings. I really don't have the time for games that are like, oh, just play through it blind, but really only one of these endings matter to the overall experience, and these other endings are just kind of fluff. But that being said, if you make a game with multiple endings and those endings are actually all worthwhile, even if one is the true ending, that's super good, and I think that's valuable to go in not knowing. But for games where it's like, oh, just like I think the one that I think is just the worst with this is Persona 4. There's no reason to not play through that game and just do the true end.
I mean,
Like
I don't even really view any of the other endings as proper endings. I view them all as the game over states.
I do too a little bit. Like they don't provide like satisfactory closure except for like the one where like the second to best one, and even then it's like
Even then, it's like, hey, you finished the game, but
good
you didn't
job,
beat
you
it.
missed the final dungeon,
Yeah,
loser. Like yeah.
so you fucked it up.
Yeah. We have one more email. Thanks, Saul or Sal. Salamander. All right. This one is from Lodo. And he says, "Hello, Rosin. Hello, Zach. Hello, guest. If one is on, it's me, Lodo. Hi, Lodo.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask your guys' opinion on how TMS came to be. I remember when it was first announced, I just got into Megaton and was hyped for it. Years later, when it returned as what it is today, I was a Fire Emblem fan at that point, and my interest was unchanged, and despite all its changes, I adored the game. It's PS2 Megaton with some FE sprinkled on. I can tell both Atlas and Intelligent Systems, yeah, that's what they're called, um, put their soul into the game. Anyway, I hope you guys have a nice day." IS is Intelligent Systems, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it is.
something like that.
Something like that. I,
I'm not a Fire Emblem fan yet, so it's okay if I don't know it.
well, I mean, you're playing the best one right now that's
It's
ever
true.
existed.
Oh my. So before we answer the question, I've got a few friends that are super into Fire Emblem, and man, do they hate whenever I'm talking about. Well, I'm playing Fire Emblem right now. I know all about who Crom is.
Yep,
They
that's
love
great.
it so much.
That's great. Um, hey, to be fair, I know multiple people that would say that this Crom is better than the Crom that's in Awakening. So, hey,
Um.
let's see. How do we think TMS came to be? I think they just honestly wanted to try something new. I
Well,
don't
I
know.
think like so. It's very well documented and well known that like when they announced this game and they showed that initial teaser, they hadn't really got they didn't have any ideas set in stone yet.
Yeah.
They kind of just showed artwork of SMT characters and Fire Emblem characters, and I think the original intent was to have like an actual crossover with those characters. And then they got like into the planning stages and decided that they just weren't really feeling that and they wanted to take the ideas of the series and make something entirely new with it. Um I think that's a very valid decision because one of the main things is like if a developer isn't feeling the product they're going to make, it's going to show. So like hey, I would have loved to actually see that crossover. You know, I was excited for it and I was excited to get my friends into potentially Megaton through it, but that didn't turn out. And honestly, if they had forced themselves to make it, it probably wouldn't have been the game we all wanted anyway. So that's probably for the best, you know?
Yo, but between Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Super Robot Wars, Chaos Wars, I, I've never heard of a video game direct crossover being bad.
Oh,
Yeah, they're no like that's another thing though. Honestly, it's like a lot of times I think direct crossovers actually do not turn out. Like I feel like a lot of those games you run into the thing where the appeal of the crossover itself can sometimes overshadow, hey, we need to make a good game to support all this. And I think Project Cross on 1, maybe not 2, But like Project Crosszone 1 is a very, very good symbol of that, where it's like they just had all these characters and they didn't give a fuck after that. Like that's the draw. Same with Super Robot Wars, honestly. It's like, hey, here's all your favorite characters from Mecha anime. They're all in a really shitty strategy RPG that barely works. Those games are bad.
I
Um,
mean, I feel like the promise here would be that Atlas makes good games, so it would have been good. But the fact that they didn't make it maybe is what we need to take away from that, you know?
yeah, I think that that could be like a statement in and of itself, and also honestly, at the end of the day, like this, like if I had to choose between what we got and also like, oh, well, like Crom and the Demi Fiend are fighting each other, like, man, I like Subasa a lot. I like Kiria a lot. I like Toma a lot. Like, all like this new cast of characters that we obtained from this game being something different is really great, and I like them a lot. And I'd be kind of sad that I wouldn't have them anymore, I guess. Like the thing they made is just really good and stands on its own. And like to an extent, like I think all the really important stuff from Megaten and Fire Emblem made its way into the game, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I do think that like it is more of a crossover than I think some people will give it credit for, at least from a gameplay standpoint. But
Yeah, it's a crossover of ideas that lean. It's funny because like, hey, it's got characters from Fire Emblem, but when you look at that game, it's a Megaton game at its heart, you know?
and like I find it really fascinating too, where I love talking to people and they're like, "Oh, there's not much Fire Emblem in it," or "Oh, there's not much Megaten in it," and I've heard both things a lot, and I always just find it funny because like it seems like everyone has a different opinion on whether it's like it seems like everyone's like, oh, it's pretty much just a Megaten game with some slight Fire Emblem stuff, or oh, it's pretty much just a Fire Emblem with some like the setting of Megaten or whatever, and it's like, man, it's funny seeing people like weigh that and stuff. Uh, yep, that's that. Thanks, Lodo. Um, so on Twitter, Darian asked, "Do you all have a guilty pleasure game?" And I'm gonna say, yeah, Dungeons and Dragons campaign that we're doing right now, that you're in.
Oh,
Darian, pay your student loans.
hey,
Hey, inside jokes.
um, guilty pleasure game. I think the theme of the day is Tokyo Mirage
Yeah,
Sessions.
no, I'd agree with that. Like,
I mean,
I
like,
was,
hey, we just sang this game's praises, but man, is it fucking stupid.
man, I don't want anyone I work with to know I play Tokyo Mirage
Oh,
Sessions after I
hey,
get home from
man,
work.
when I got this game on and it's getting to like a super anime pop scene, and I hear the footsteps walking upstairs, I'm like,
Yeah,
fuck.
like,
Everyone judges me.
oh no, it's like I'm 12 again. Let's
I'm
see.
sure there are better answers I could give, but man, I don't think I can give any good answers for anything right now.
Anything that's honestly overtly anime, I don't want to associate myself with, honestly. Which might be sound like super shitty, but like, yeah. Like, even when like cutscenes in like a Devil May Cry will play, it's like, man, this is stupid. Um, but yeah. I just don't want anyone knowing I play video games.
Yeah,
Or just like consume media.
yeah.
I
I'll
just
honestly, I'm surprised people haven't discovered yet that I like video games. I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this. I was gonna go into something, but I didn't do it.
do you want me to just cut that out?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I don't care.
YOLO. No one's listening at this point anyways.
Yo, like honestly, after everything we've said in the past half hour of this podcast, if you were gonna cut out things that didn't go anywhere, you'd cut out the whole thing.
Oh. No, this is where we make our stand. This is the hill we die on.
Oh,
I'm starting a
bad podcast
revolution.
episodes.
Yeah, we are
I
finally
think I have
diamond dogs, motherfuckers.
Hey
Some may
man,
call us terrorists, others freedom fighters. But there's one thing we all have in common,
What's that?
that we're proud to be Americans. God bless you. Happy 4th of July. Stay safe. Don't blow yourself up with fireworks.